5 Live Formula One.
Hello and welcome to 5 Live F1. It's round 2 of the Formula One World Championship, and just a week after the opening race of the year in Australia, we're straight back to it, and with just under 15 minutes time, we'll be lights out for the Chinese Grand Prix. Up in the commentary box is myself, Harry Benjamin, alongside me, the Formula E driver Sam Bird, and the BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson. It's been a busy weekend so far, Sam, hasn't it, with the first sprint of the year, but I think we should first come and talk about Lando Norris, who is due to start 6th on the grid. Looks like he'll be starting from the pit lane. Yeah, drama's already here in China. Looks like we've got quite a few people starting from the pit lane, actually, Harry. We've got Alexander Albon in his Williams. Gabby Bortoletto's car has also been taken off the grid and went back to the Audi garage. Presumably they've got an issue, and now we've just heard, yes, Lando Norris, the McLaren reigning Formula One World Champion, will be starting from the pit lane. Yeah, just seeing him now walking around his garage. The mechanics stood round his car, which is fairly peaceful at the moment. His overall's halfway down, wrapped around his waist. Meanwhile, his teammate Oscar Piastri stands on the grid next to his car, soaking up the atmosphere here at this Shanghai International Circuit. Packed out grandstands for the second race of the year, as now Lando Norris, the reigning world champion, prepares and puts on his race suit and has those final preparations. Getting into the zone then might be a long afternoon for him, with 56 laps of racing ahead of us. We'll run you through the whole grid in due course. Let's fly up to the top of the grid though, Sam, and it has been a superb weekend once again for Mercedes. Yeah, they've been in imperious form, haven't they? They are definitely the class of the field. Expect them to be it might be a struggle off the line, but then their race pace should be the best, and I expect a fight between Antonelli and Russell. Can Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc hang on to the back of them and use their battery pack wisely to ensure that they're there at the end of the race? That's what I'm excited to see. Yeah, the start's going to be so interesting here as well. Kimi Antonelli, who starts on pole position, made history yesterday to become the youngest ever pole sitter in Formula One history. Let's hear from the young Italian.
Kimi Antonelli, the youngest driver to start a Formula One Grand Prix on pole position. I know you want more than that from your career, but you must be pretty proud of that stat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super happy with yesterday. Of course, was a great qualifying, and yeah, now looking forward to the race. Of course, there's a lot to play for. It's not going to be easy, but pace is good. So hopefully we get a good start, and then we can set the pace.
On those starts, you had a couple of tricky ones so far this season. So is that going to be the key? And is George going to be your biggest rival, do you think, today?
Definitely is going to be one of the main ones. But I wouldn't discount the Ferraris as well, because you know they're very strong at the start. And but I'm just going to try not to overcomplicate things at the start. I know what I did wrong yesterday, and just need to get a clean start. Don't try to get the perfect one, you know, and just get a nice pull away, and then we'll see from there.
Kimi Antonelli, your pole sitter for the Chinese Grand Prix, trying not to overcomplicate things then, hoping to get off the line cleanly, Sam, and there's pressure for Kimi to do that today. Yeah, of course, there's always pressure, especially when you're starting from pole, everybody behind you, eager to try and overtake you, but he's a class act, isn't he, Kimi Antonelli? He's got a season under his belt now, and although these cars are difficult to get off the grid, and he's had a couple of challenging starts, George Russell actually mentioned that all of Mercedes, or a lot of Mercedes' time in between Melbourne and this race here in Shanghai has been all about trying to improve their start. So let's see if that hard work that they've done at Brackley comes to the forefront at the race start this afternoon. Well, what we saw yesterday as well in qualifying is that the Mercedes aren't bulletproof. George Russell had a front wing his front wing broke in Q2, then was stuck in gear, stopped out on track in Q3, left himself with only one lap to do it, did the business in the end, but I think a lot of people suspect he would have got pole had he not had those issues. Yeah, it was a very unideal Q3 for him. He the front wing issue in Q2, that disrupted him. Then whatever happened at turn 3, the car went into like a limp home mode, couldn't shift up gears, got out with 2 minutes to go in the session, brought it home and got a front row, but the tyres weren't in the correct window. He wasn't sure on the downforce levels with this new front wing. So I think he'll be happy. He would have been happy yesterday knowing that
it was his for the taking. And he'll be confident that he can bring home a win today.
Well, let's hear from the man who starts in second, George Russell, speaking with Chris Medland.
George, you're pretty big in China, it turns out. Just how special is it racing here this weekend?
Yeah, ni hao, China. I really love coming to Shanghai. There's so much support here. It's been very surreal and special to experience, so I hope I can give everybody a great race today.
Well, you gave us some excitement yesterday as well with qualifying. Did you get to the root of those issues that you had?
Yes, there was actually nothing major. It was like one small error that caused obviously a big fiasco and led on to a number of other issues. So unfortunately these new cars are still pretty complicated. It's not something we're concerned about for the future. It's just a little workaround now we just need to consider in qualifying. So very grateful to have got the lap in, because otherwise it looked like I'd have been in P10.
Well, starting P2, is it the biggest challenge going to come from your teammate Kimi Antonelli on pole position, or the Ferraris behind, you think?
I think Kimi's been really quick this season, and for sure he's going to be fighting for the victory, no doubt. We know how quick Charles and Lewis are, especially at the start of the race, so it could be a four-way fight. I think we both expect them to be strong in the early laps, so probably be looking at my mirrors opening the first corner from Charles and Lewis, but it's a long race and I think we've got the pace.
Good luck today.
Could be a fascinating race for the Mercedes up front. But they mentioned there, Sam, the Ferraris behind. Lewis Hamilton starts third, Charles Leclerc just behind in fourth. And Hamilton, well, we've been talking about it all weekend long, haven't we? It feels like he's been rejuvenated this year. Starts right behind them. Can he play a part today in challenging for victory?
Absolutely. I expect Lewis to be fighting for the lead going through turn one and into turn two. He's got a prime spot there in third position on the grid, on the cleaner side of the grid. What's his launch going to be like? But from testing up until Melbourne, the Ferrari was by far and away the best car on the grid when it came to starts. That's something to do with their smaller turbo. They're able to get off the line better than those who opted for a larger size. So yeah, I'm expecting Lewis to at least challenge in the opening phase of the race.
Well, let's hear from the six-time Chinese Grand Prix winner, Lewis Hamilton.
So overall, it's been a great week, and I love driving this track because it's one of the best tracks in the world. And the crowd is just, every year, I've been here now 20-odd years, and this is the biggest crowd I've seen here. So it's great to see.
It certainly is, and it's a race that served you well as well. 6 Grand Prix victories. You won the sprint here last year, but how tough will it be to beat those Mercedes and repeat that today?
No, it's so hard to beat the Mercedes. I think ultimately, just on pure pace, we won't be able to beat them. But maybe tactically, the good thing is there's the two Mercedes and there's Charles and I. So hopefully we can tag team and try to apply pressure to them both. And maybe through strategy, we're able to somehow pull something out of the bag. So I feel good about today.
He's feeling good about today, Lewis Hamilton, and I don't think McLaren are feeling good right now. One car confirmed to start from the pit lane in the form of reigning world champion Lando Norris. And Sam, we're seeing pictures now of Oscar Piastri, who was on the grid, his car lined up in P5, now being wheeled back into the pit lane towards the McLaren garage.
Yeah, both cars confined to the pit lane for a pit lane start at best. We don't know what the issue is. We certainly don't know what's happened to Oscar Piastri's car, but just sad scenes to see that car being wheeled back through the start-finish wall and back to the McLaren garage. So if you're a McLaren fan, not a good afternoon so far.
Not at all for Oscar Piastri, last year's race winner, and then just a few moments away from lights out here in Shanghai. And Sam, this is a challenging track. How good and how easy is it to overtake here? Because I'm just looking at perhaps those of the Red Bulls, Verstappen and Hadjar. They start in that midfield area, 8th and 9th. Can they move forward today?
Well, they don't really start 8th and 9th anymore, do they, Harry? They start 6th and 7th, or 5th and 6th, sorry. So, they are towards the front. Pierre Gasly will start effectively 5th, then Verstappen 6th and Hadjar 7. Okay, they've got to leave a grid slot now for where Oscar and Lando were supposed to be starting, but they're towards the front. Their main goal will be get past Pierre Gasly as quick as possible if they can. Gasly with that Mercedes powertrain, of course, and then settle in. I think the best that they can hope for this afternoon is probably 5th and 6th.
Well, we will run you through the entire grid as it stands, but still in flux a little bit here with just minutes to go. Also, a bit of breaking news coming overnight. Let's bring in the BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson, and we've been speaking about it already, but confirmation then from Formula One and the FIA that the Bahrain and Saudi Arabian Grand Prix have been cancelled.
Yeah, as telegraphed over the last couple of days, even the last week or so, Harry, the war in the Middle East has meant that those races obviously can't be held for safety reasons, and as expected, there'll be no other events to take their place, and they won't be rescheduled for later in the season.
So we will have a 5-week gap after the Japanese Grand Prix before we then head to Miami, which will become round 4 of the Formula One World Championship.
So looking at the grid and the tyres that everybody's using, it looks like the top 4, so both Mercedes, both Ferraris, will be starting on the medium compound tyre. Interestingly, both Red Bulls have opted to start on the softs. Looking a little bit further back, you've got a trio of Hülkenberg, Colapinto and Ocon looking to start on the hard compound tyres, and then it's a mixture towards the back of the grid between mediums and hard. So interesting that the Red Bulls have opted for the softs.
Yeah, it certainly is. We've got, in terms of what Pirelli have on offer here, the C2 acting as the hard, the C3 acting as the medium, the C4 acting as the C4, so I should say, as the soft. Last year, it was a pretty straightforward medium to hard one stop. Expect the same again for those that have elected to do that?
I think we're expecting a one-stop. I mean, the man in the know is the man next to me in the commentary booth, Mr. Andrew Benson. He is Mr. Long-run corner, of course. What do you expect?
It's looking like a one-stop. It was an easy one-stop last year. In fact, the crossover point of the tyres, where the hard becomes faster than the soft and the medium, is just after 6 laps. So it might not make that much difference whether the soft or the medium is used at the start. You get a better launch off the start. Obviously, the medium gives you a bit more flexibility on strategy, and it's a bit more durable. But it's not exactly a shuffling, jumbly race in terms of strategy. Safety cars are not that common around Shanghai, although they are generally more and more prevalent these days in Formula One.
Well, absolutely. With this new 2026 car, we might see some more safety cars with people breaking down or having issues at the side of the track. Also, one thing to notice is it's colder today in Shanghai, so that could lead to a little bit more front graining.
It certainly could. As the cars that remain on the grid, it looks like we're going to get 4 cars hopefully starting from the pit lane. The 2 McLarens, Norris and Piastri. Alex Albon, who's made suspension changes overnight, and Gabi Bortoletto's Audi also has an issue, but we're still waiting confirmation on what that is.
Piastri looked not good. He was in the garage with the tensor barrier in front of him. That doesn't suggest a car that's going anywhere anytime quickly, Sam, does it?
No, it doesn't at all. So it might be a case of only Lando Norris taking to the Grand Prix this afternoon, and that's a bitter blow for McLaren. They've had a challenging start to the season so far.
Well, the grandstands are absolutely packed out in Shanghai for the second round of the Formula One World Championship. 22 drivers, 18 on the grid, 4 in pit lane with issues. Sit waiting here. We had our first taste of this new era of Formula One a week ago in Australia. Now it's time for the tricky follow-up. 56 laps of racing ahead of us around this Shanghai International Circuit. It is time for the Chinese Grand Prix. They peel away on the formation lap then, starting from the pit lane, Alex Albon's Williams, Lando Norris's McLaren, and with issues still unknown, Gabi Bortoletto's Audi and Oscar Piastri's McLaren. We await to see if they can actually make the start. Then on the grid, right at the back, it's Sergio Perez in the Cadillac from 21st, behind Lance Stroll's Aston Martin. Valtteri Bottas is 19th, behind the other Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso. 17th place is Carlos Sainz. Then there'll be a gap Arvid Lindblad will go from 15th behind his Racing Bulls teammate Liam Lawson. Esteban Ocon, out-qualified by teammate Ollie Behrman, starts 13th behind Franco Colapinto, just 0.05 of a second away from Q3 yesterday. Nico Hülkenberg, 2 races, 2 11th place starts for the German in his Audi. Inside the top 10 comes Behrman in the Haas. Hadjar is 9th for Red Bull behind teammate Max Verstappen. Best of the rest in an impressive qualifying yesterday for Pierre Gasly in 7th. Then there'll be 2 empty spots where we expect the McLarens to be. Charles Leclerc from 4th in his Ferrari, inside the top 3. Lewis Hamilton from 3rd. And your front row, it's a Mercedes lockout with George Russell in 2nd and Kimi Antonelli on pole position. Well, it's all action here to start things off, but now it's time to focus for the drivers on the grid, particularly those 2 Mercedes who will know how good the Ferraris are at the start.
Yeah, they'll be firmly looking in their mirrors going down into turn 1. Well, Lewis Hamilton might already be ahead, knowing the starts that he's had this year. We're just seeing pictures of Oscar Piastri stuck in his car in the pit lane. It doesn't look good. I mean, if he doesn't get onto the racetrack this afternoon, that'll be 2 races in a row where he's not done a single lap, in fact taken the start at all, which is unthinkable from a team like McLaren.
For a man who was for so long last year leading the championship, not the start to 2026 he would have liked. Update from McLaren, we've identified an issue on Oscar Piastri's car, which means we were unable to start the car from the grid. We've now returned the car to the garage to further investigate the issue there. Oscar Piastri still sat inside his car, but doesn't look like he'll make it to the end of the pit lane for the green light.
Certainly not in time for the start of the race, but they've probably got another 60 seconds until the cars line up, so let's hope that McLaren can find something quickly, but not an ideal start. And Gabi Bortoleto will not be racing in China this afternoon. Images of him out of his race suit and with his radio set on to watch Nico Hülkenberg. So disappointing day for Gabi Bortoleto.
That's a shame for Audi. Nico Hülkenberg didn't start the race last week in Australia, and they will only have 1 car in the game for this race here in China as the cars begin to slot into their rows.
And sorry, Pierre Gasly has missed his grid slot. So he's gone past his grid slot. I don't know what happens now. Well, he's had to reverse on the grid.
Reverse.
But I don't know whether what's the regulation on finding reverse on the grid, Andrew? Do you know?
I think we'll have to look into that one.
Not off the top of my head, but
no, there is a regulation regarding that. You're only allowed to move with forward momentum, I think. So I think the FIA will be looking at that.
I think it might be flagged, but he has found his grid spot. Looks like Alex Albon is also not taking the start of this race then. Green flag at the back. It's a Mercedes front row lockout with the 2 Ferraris behind. We'll be watching those fast-charging Scarlet cars, but on pole position, it's Kimi Antonelli. Alongside him is George Russell. It's all eyes to the lights and foot to the floor as we go racing in China, and it's a better start for Kimi Antonelli. But the Ferraris are flying, the 2 Mercedes to the inside as the 2 Ferraris swing round the outside. Hamilton takes the lead as he carves his way through the double right-handers at turns 1 and 2. Kimi Antonelli tries to hold on to 2nd to fight with Charles Leclerc's Ferrari. Leclerc's Ferrari can only manage 3rd, but what a start from Ferrari. Hamilton leads.
Absolutely. I said about Hamilton going round the outside at turn 1, and that's exactly what he was able to do. Charles Leclerc tried to follow him through, but wasn't able to do so. So right now, Hamilton by Antonelli, by Leclerc, then George Russell in 4th.
One of the Racing Bulls further back running deep down at turn 6, but so far everybody seemed to get away relatively cleanly on the grid. So no Oscar Piastri, no Lando Norris, no Gabriel Bortoleto, and no Alex Albon, down to 18 cars as we come towards the end of lap 1.
And Max Verstappen's had a shocker of a start, down in 16th place on that soft compound tyres. We now see the Haas car of Ollie Behrman bouncing all over the curbs at turn 11.
Hadjar's gone round, and that's forced Ollie Behrman to take evasive action round the long right-hander of turn 13. They were battling going into turn 11, running deep, and it's all action here at the start of the Chinese Grand Prix. Behrman's managed to avoid Hadjar, but lock up further round for Gasly, who's fighting further back. Colapinto, who's fighting further back. What a start for Franco Franco Colapinto, he's up to 6th in the Alpine as we start lap 2 of 56. It's Hamilton who leads Antonelli, Leclerc the top 3, then it's Russell, then there's a gap to the 2 Alpines of Gasly and Colapinto, followed by the 2 Racing Bulls who've made great starts. Lawson ahead of Lindblad, Ocon is 9th, Sainz rounds out the point scorers in the top 10, Alonso is up 7 places into 11th, Verstappen, one of the big losers, down to 12th ahead of Behrman, Bottas is 14th, Hulkenberg 15th, Stroll is 16th with Perez, who looks like he had a slow start, down in 17th as Hadjar, after having that spin round turn 13, has found his way back to the pit lane.
What has happened on these opening 2 laps, Harry? It's just absolute madness. The grid is completely topsy-turvy. You've got Lewis Hamilton, Antonelli, Leclerc, the top 3, but then behind that it's like a pick and mix of the rest of the grid.
As the top 4 starts to close up here in China. A bit of an overcast day today. It's been sunny and bright, but temperatures have been cold throughout, and temperatures cool once again today. Keeping a cool head out in front, though, is that scarlet red Ferrari with the unmistakable yellow of Lewis Hamilton's helmet. But to the side of him, Kimi Antonelli with straight line mode activated, the active aero, the wings open, and then close under braking. Down towards the right-hander of turn 14, the heavy braking zone, as the young Italian retakes the lead of the Chinese Grand Prix at the end of lap 2. Antonelli, Hamilton, Leclerc, Russell, the top 4.
Yeah, and Oscar Piastri is now out of his McLaren, so he will not be taking part in this race. Both McLarens resigned to the pit lane.
As George Russell picks off Charles Leclerc's Ferrari coming into turn 1. See an intriguing battle here with the different energy deployment schedules, the application of the boost button as well, giving you an extra boost, maximum power from the engine and the battery, allowing you to attack and defend as long as you have enough battery left in your car. Antonelli 6/10 clear of Hamilton, then comes Russell, and Leclerc now down to 4th. Gasly and Colapinto the top 6. Colapinto on the hard tyre, everybody else ahead of him on the medium tyre, expecting a one-stop race here. Lawson 7th, Ocon, Lindblad, Verstappen's now up inside the top 10.
And Lewis Hamilton runs deep at turn number 9. He's not going to get a good exit. George Russell is now right there with him. I think what we're seeing now, Harry, is that not the dominance, that's the wrong word, they're not totally dominant, but after 3 or 4 laps the Mercedes comes into its own, and I think now the Ferraris will start to fall back a little bit.
Just to reconfirm then, we're down to 18 cars, neither McLaren making it out onto the grid or for a pit lane start. Electrical issues for Norris, unknown issues right now for Oscar Piastri. Gabriel Borsaletto's Audi 2 did not start the race, neither did the Williams of Alex Albon, who had elected to go from the pit lane anyway, but the Thai driver standing in his garage watching his teammate Carlos Sainz up in 11th spot right now. As we swing round the final corner then, and it looks like there's a move being made once more as George Russell powers his way past Lewis Hamilton, who didn't fight that one. Perhaps we're seeing a difference there in the energy deployment round this track. Hamilton not putting up a fight there. The 2 Mercedes now lead this race. Antonelli, Russell, Hamilton, Leclerc, the top 4.
The 2 Alpines doing a cracking job, aren't they? Pierre Gasly in 5th and Franco Colapinto in 6th. Let's see what he can do. Can he hold on to P6? That would be his best finish in Formula 1 by a long way.
Certainly will be. This is the sound of the 2nd Ferrari, Charles Leclerc, who started in 4th place, currently occupies 4th place, saying he just doesn't get on well at this track. He just doesn't go well here, never has done, and never seems to enjoy his running round here, and has never treated himself to a podium finish here. Right now, outside of those podium places. Meanwhile, on Verstappen watch, he's down in 10th at the moment, but he's close behind Arvid Lindblad in the Racing Bulls. Remember, those two were fighting on track a week ago in Australia. Arvid Lindblad, the British rookie in the Red Bull Junior team, Racing Bulls, well, didn't exactly move out of the way for the 4-time champ.
No, he was feisty, wasn't he? From in Sector 1, especially in Melbourne, he got his elbows out and said, look, I'm here to race you. I'm not going to give you preferential treatment.
A little bit of a lock-up, I think, from one of the Mercedes. George Russell, I think, going into the right-hander of turn 15 at the end of the long back straight. Is that going to give Hamilton a slight advantage coming down the start-finish straight to start lap number 5 of 56?
Yeah, Kimi Antonelli's pace out the front looks pretty strong at the moment, although George Russell is coming back at him. It's kind of swings around quite a bit with these new regulations and the battery management and usage of the battery. You think a car's getting away, and then the next lap they look low on battery, and then another car comes roaring right back at them. So interesting to see what Mercedes do now with George Russell kind of coming at Kimi Antonelli a little bit.
Yeah, Verstappen and Lindblad having a good old ding-dong. I just wanted to get a look at the race start, and we're going to get one. We're having a look at the replay now, and both Mercedes bogging down at the start, and then lucky not to clash into each other. It was another bad start for Max Verstappen further back in the Red Bull, but the Ferrari's fast starting and just sweeping round the outside. Hamilton with the best start to take the lead.
Reminds me a little bit of can you remember when Renault in the traction control days had an enormous advantage on everybody else at the start? Ferrari have kind of got that sort of advantage at the moment. They can go from the second or third row of these grids in Formula One currently and be challenging for the lead. We're on board with Charles Leclerc, and I mean he potentially had an even better start than Lewis Hamilton, but got boxed in a little bit.
Yeah, he did, and then just had a snap going up over the apex towards turn 2, a 270-degree right-hander that then swings back round through the left. The back end slips out. He loses grip. That allows Antonelli to get back through. This is the sound of Max Verstappen. 2 bad starts in a row this weekend. Really bogging down. The Ford powertrain in partnership with Red Bull really having to be kicked into life there. But by the time he does that, he's already at the back of the pack.
Isaac Hadjar didn't have the same issue, although he had an issue further on round the lap. But Isaac Hadjar's start was okay. As we see Sergio Perez, no further investigation actually between himself and his teammate, but Perez clunking into the side of his Finnish teammate.
That's the last thing you need from the Cadillac teammates, but Bottas still out there, and 2 for Perez. Intriguing one for Isaac Hadjar and Ollie Behrman. That battle was started down at turn 11. Behrman running deep, both of them running deep, and then all of a sudden round the right-hander as Hadjar cuts back in front, just loses the rear, and Behrman lucky not to sweep straight into the side of the Frenchman's Red Bull.
No, and Max Verstappen tries to go around the outside of Arvid Lindblad at turn 1 and has a huge snap of oversteer, so he's had to move back and he'll have to fight another day.
Lap 6 of 56 then. Antonelli leads now by 1.5 seconds to Russell. Hamilton 3rd, Charles Leclerc 4th. Then it's the 2 Alpines of Gasly and Colapinto. Ocon is 7th. Lawson, Lindblad and Verstappen make up the top 10. Behrman's recovering up to 11th. Sainz is 12th. Hulkenberg 13th. Bottas is 15th behind Alonso. Stroll, Perez and Hadjar, who pitted after his spin round turn 13, down an 18th on the hard tyre. Head down for Isaac Hadjar now. Let's see if he can make anything out of this race now. No Piastri, no Norris, no Bortoletto and no Alex Albon. They failed to start this race as just things start to settle down now as we approach the end of lap 7 of 56. Good morning if you're just waking up. You're listening to 5 Live F1 hit from Shanghai. It's the second round of the season at the Chinese Grand Prix, setting us up for a busy day of sport here as Max Verstappen, who is down in 10th place at the moment, fighting with the Racing Bulls of Arvid Lindblad, tries to find a way through, coming into turns 1 and 2, a never-ending right-hander that swings you back round to the left-hander. Overtake mode activated when you're within a second of the car in front. It gives you an extra half a megajoule to deploy from your battery, helps him close in, but not enough.
Yeah, he doesn't look very happy on this set of soft compound tyres. Just saw there at turn 3 a little bit of understeer as you go down towards the apex at turn 3, and then a snap of oversteer on the exit, and that front left looks really angry of Max Verstappen's right now. So the soft compound tyre looking not like the choice to be on.
No, really struggling out there with those tyres by the looks of things is Max Verstappen. We're setting you up for a big day of sport. We're going to be building up to today's Premier League fixtures on 5 Live Sport with Steve Crossman from midday today, 2 o'clock. We'll have live commentary of Man United v Aston Villa on Sports Extra from 1:30. We'll have Nottingham Forest v Fulham. Crystal Palace against Leeds United is on Sports Extra 2 at 1:55. Updates of both those games as well on 5 Live. There's also Women's League Cup football action. Chelsea v Man United in the Women's League Cup final on Sports Extra 3 from 2 p.m. Then from 4 o'clock our attention turns to Liverpool against Tottenham with kickoff at 4:30 on 5 Live. But right now you're listening to lap 8 of 56 of the Chinese Grand Prix. It's Harry Benjamin with you up in the commentary box. Alongside me is the Formula E driver Sam Bird.
So Max Verstappen is the only one out there currently on the soft compound tyres, and it looks like that front left is almost ripping itself apart. The amount of understeer he's got in right-hand corners just looks absolutely awful at the moment.
And on cue from Verstappen's radio, he said, "My tyre is dead."
Yeah, and, you know, it's going to be a tricky old afternoon for him now, because he's got to make it to about lap 16 at worst in order to make the one-stop work. If he pits now, he'll be a sitting duck towards the end of the race on the hard compound tyre.
Yeah, it's he's stuck right behind the 2 Racing Bulls, but Lindblad's on the hard tyre, Lawson on the medium tyre in 8th. So really, Verstappen, you'd expect the Red Bull to cruise past those Racing Bulls, but with the tyre offset and perhaps the struggles of the energy deployment that he seems to be having this weekend, although the balance has been off for Verstappen all weekend long on the chassis side too.
It has indeed, and this is why sometimes these sprint weekends are so difficult, because they haven't done the homework on all the compounds in free practices. Red Bull would have been going into this not blind, but with far less data than they would have wanted. Same for every team, I suppose, but it was quite brave to go on the softs, as we see a lock-up for Arvid Lindblad trying to overtake Liam Lawson down into turn 14, unable to do so, runs a little bit deep, and Lawson back through again.
The 2 Racing Bulls getting feisty. Lindblad on the hard compound tyre, Lawson on the medium compound tyre. Expect that medium, if you're doing a one-stop, you want to try and get it to around about lap 17 to lap 23, presuming we get green flag running all the way, whereas if you're on that hard tyre, you can go a lot longer into this race.
Yeah, the hard tyre right now, just looking at the bands on those front lefts, the medium compound tyre is already starting to struggle.
Guys,
We are reviewing.
yeah, it's okay, I'm just going to lose time.
So what he's talking about there, Liam Lawson, is the fighting between himself and his teammate Arvid Lindblad. He's saying, look, we shouldn't be fighting, we should be moving forwards. Watching a replay of it now, it's just it's a decent attempt down the inside, but then he locks up and runs deep. The hard compound tyre, in contrast to the medium, looks in quite good condition right now. So right now it looks like the hard is the tyre to be on. Medium is starting to struggle, and Max Verstappen's soft is fallen off a cliff.
As well, we're just getting a look at Oscar Piastri walking rather forlornly to, I imagine, give some interviews to the media in the pen in the paddock, because he hasn't even been able to start this race. 2 races in a row for Oscar Piastri that he's not been able to participate in. One crashing on the way to the grid in Australia, and suspected technical issues for Piastri's McLaren. Right, we have another Racing Bulls fight on our hands as Arvid Lindblad makes a nice move of it this time, not locking up down into turn 14. At the same time, Ollie Behrman, who does a lovely overtake on Max Verstappen in the same area, and at the last minute, as they sweep in for the left-hander, both the Racing Bulls and Max Verstappen's Red Bull come into the pit lane. So it's Lawson who's in, followed by Max Verstappen. Then we've got Carlos Sainz in the Williams, all coming into the pit lane to get rid for Max Verstappen of his soft tyres. He hits the marks outside his pit box. It's a slightly delayed stop. He's put on the hard tyre as the tyres screech as they pull back into the pit lane. Lawson rally styles his way back into the fast lane. It's as they came in, Lawson ahead of Verstappen, ahead of Carlos Sainz, who will feed out, I think, just ahead of Isaac Hadjar, who brings up the rear of the field.
Oh, and there's a yellow flag. Lance Stroll in his Aston Martin has pulled off to the side of the track at turn 2. right on the outside. I can imagine this might be a virtual safety car, Harry.
Well, yesterday in the sprint, in a similar position, Nico Hülkenberg stopped, didn't he, in his Audi, and that actually brought out the full safety car. So could that bunch up the pack here? Could those pit stops for Verstappen have been just that little bit too early? Will they become undone by the fact that we now have a full safety car? Everybody slows down. Are we about to get a flurry of pit action here?
Yes, I think so. I think what Charles Leclerc's doing is slowing down more than he would normally potentially, and everybody's going to be peeling into the pit lane. George Russell, Team Radio, box as Kimi Antonelli comes into the pits.
Our race leader, who managed to retake the leads at the end of lap 2, comes in for his first stop. He hits his marks outside his Mercedes garage. The team get to work well. Nice quick stop, 2.9 seconds. George Russell feeds in the second Mercedes. Hard work for the mechanics there to get all 4 wheels off and back on again. It gets tight in the pit lane as Lewis Hamilton gets fed back into the fast lane. Charles Leclerc did slow down to provide enough of a gap. It's still slightly slow though for the Monegasque, 3.5 seconds. Kimi Antonelli re-emerges in the lead of this race. Franco Colapinto has worked his way up into second in the Alpine, having started on the hards and had an amazing start, and now will be running long into this race. Ocon third, Russell feeds out in fourth ahead of Lewis Hamilton. We can see the stricken Lance Stroll Aston Martin car just sitting on the edge of the track, coming into the right-hander of turn 2, but it is full safety car conditions here in Shanghai.
Yeah, I don't understand that from Colapinto. I mean, he was in a decent position, albeit P7, but I think that was the best he could have asked for this afternoon by staying out. Okay, he's in P2 right now, but he'll filter towards the back of the grid once racing resumes when he pits.
What's interesting, Sam, is that the drivers on hard tyres at the start generally haven't pitted. Colapinto, Ocon, Lindblad, Hülkenberg and Alonso all staying out, which is very counterintuitive. I don't really understand why they think that's going to help them. You can see on one level why they've done it, because the hard's expected to go deep into the race and then you want to switch on to the medium, but you're costing yourself so much race time by not stopping in this case, and your tyres are going to be slower than everybody else around you. I don't see how that's going to work out for them in the long term.
Absolutely. I mean, it's frustrating for them because they did start on the hard. For anybody that doesn't know, you have to use 2 different compounds in a race. So if you start on the hard, you would have to go to the medium. We're now watching a replay of Isaac Hadjar's stop, and there seems to be an issue on that front left. Yeah, they couldn't get the front left off. They eventually do, but they would have to have gone from the hard to the medium. It's way too early in the race to go to a medium, but I don't understand why they didn't opt. Do you know what? We're going to go for a 2-stop. This stop is a free stop because everybody's stopping, and then we'll have the advantage of a hard at the end. We'll have to do a lot of work, but as everybody else's hards are fading, we'll have fresh to new medium tyres at the end.
Yeah, it's an odd one, but I mean, just to recap for everybody, we hadn't mentioned the front runners for a while, Harry, because there was all that action going on in the midfield with Racing Bulls and Verstappen particularly. But what had happened at the front before this safety car was that Antonelli and Russell were kind of stabilised about 1.2, 1.3 seconds apart. It looked like Russell, if you can stay with that within range of a driver within that sort of time frame, it looks like you are slightly quicker, but Russell wasn't attacking. Don't know how that's played out. We don't know what kind of team instructions they've had before the race about that, but the Ferraris were starting to drop back. Lewis Hamilton was about nearly 5 seconds behind the Mercedes cars in front of him, and Charles Leclerc was starting to put him under pressure in 4th place. So we'll have to wait and see obviously how that pans out on these hard tyres, which they are now going to be stuck with for the rest of the race. So if Russell's going to make a bid for the win, which I'm sure he'll want deep down, then he'll have to start getting on with it.
The car attitude of the leaders behind the safety car suggests that they're a little bit grumpy and unhappy of the pace of the safety car right now. Safety car pace was very slow, and that's because the grid at the moment is so spread out. He's picked up the speed now as the back of the field bunches up towards the midfield. But at the beginning of this lap, you saw Antonelli crawling all over the back of the safety car.
I think for those who are already right there, they're just going to be losing tyre temperature, aren't they?
Exactly. That's why, you know, it's difficult. Formula One cars are so fast. There's no GT car in the world that could ever keep up with them. So for a GT car like the safety car going flat out, it's still a good 45-50 seconds off the back of a Formula One lap time, and you just lose thermal temperature all the way through the tyre, both surface and core temperature.
So we're under safety car conditions here. Lap 12 of 56 as Lance Stroll's Aston Martin conks out going into turn 2, and that car now being recovered back behind the barriers, so might even be able to get the safety car in this lap, or maybe one more lap around. But certainly those who are on the medium tyre making sense to pit under safety car. Those who started on the hard tyre, it's not ideal for them.
I think the one stop's going to be challenging.
Yeah, if George Russell saying the one stop's going to be challenging. He was one of the front runners to come into the pits, to go onto the hard tyre. Doesn't feel like he can make that all the way to the end. We've seen graining high here with the cold temperatures encouraging that scarring on the tyre, and general degradation always been a factor here in Shanghai.
What's interesting here for the restart, which probably we'll get at the end of this next lap, I would hope, is that Antonelli and Russell have 2 cars in between them. It's only Colapinto's Alpine and Ocon's Haas. Shouldn't be too difficult for Russell to get past them, but with all the energy management situation that's going on in F1, that will compromise Russell to a degree. We'll have to see how that affects him once he's got into second place.
This is going to be interesting. Our first safety car, full safety car kind of restart in Grand Prix scenario in this new era of Formula 1. While we hope to get this race back running, and the safety car is going to be in this lap, just a recap of the latest sports headlines for you. It was a thrilling Six Nations final match which saw France beat England by 48 points to 46 to successfully defend their title. The two teams scored 7 tries apiece, with the match coming down to a final penalty in Paris. Earlier title contenders Ireland beat Scotland by 43 points to 21, whilst Wales ended their 15-game losing streak in the Six Nations, beating Italy 31-17. The Premier League has a new youngest ever goal scorer. 16-year-old Max Dowman capped off a late 2-0 win for Arsenal over Everton. Arsenal's lead at the top of the Premier League is 9 points after Man City were held to a 1-1 draw by West Ham. They still have 1 game in hand, though. Newcastle won 1-0 against Chelsea for their first league victory at Stamford Bridge since 2012. Brighton were 1-0 winners away to Sunderland. Burnley against Bournemouth finished goalless. And more sport coming up today as well. We'll have the Premier League fixtures on 5 Live Sport with Steve Crossman from midday. But right now, this is 5 Live F1, lap 13 of 56. The safety car ending. Kimi Antonelli leads for Mercedes, having pitted. Franco Colapinto in the Alpine up to second, having not pitted. The same for Esteban Ocon's Haas in third. Russell and Hamilton 4th and 5th, both pitted under safety car. Then comes Lindblad. Leclerc also pitted down in 7th. Hulkenberg, Gasly and Behrman are your top 10 as they make their way now down the back straight, weaving left and right. When will Kimi Antonelli go, Sam Bird?
I think he's going to try and catch Franco Colapinto napping at some point, presumably on the exit at turn 14. Get good traction and a good slingshot out of turn 16. When does he go? He's not gone just yet. He's still weaving out of 14. And now he gets his foot down towards turn 16.
Franco Colapinto goes with him as well, but not really in the same race as they flick round the final left hand. A couple of twitches from the cars behind. George Russell's front end has a little bit of a wobble, losing out on time. Colapinto's under pressure from Esteban Ocon's Haas as they hit the brakes and sweep into the never-ending right-hander as they carve their way out through turns 1 and 2. Right, then left again. Antonelli leads Colapinto, leads Ocon. George Russell looking a little bit shaky coming out of the exit of turn 3. Lewis Hamilton's going to be all over the back of him. The 7-time world champion trying to get up and underneath George Russell, who feels the need to defend. So too for Colapinto down into turn number 6 as Hamilton gets the edge on George Russell, and Hamilton goes through on the Mercedes.
Yeah, sorry Andrew. George Russell ran deep into turn 6 and Lewis Hamilton had a simple cutback. So good stuff from Lewis Hamilton, who's now challenging the back of Esteban Ocon.
Yeah, Russell did not have a good restart. He had a twitch out of the hairpin, he had a twitch through the final corner, he had a twitch in turn 1, turn 2, and then he lost a position to Lewis Hamilton in turn 6. So he's really compromised his chances of winning this race now as his teammate Kimi Antonelli makes hay at the front of the field.
I mean, I still think that he's got plenty of pace in that Mercedes to still challenge for the win, but he's just made it a little bit more difficult for himself as Lewis Hamilton now challenges the back of the Haas of Ocon, and I think that's going to be an easy move down the inside into the hairpin, is it?
Wow.
No, he pulls out then gets the move done under the brakes.
Yeah, I think we saw there a bit of energy management going on from both of them just as we approached, well, 2/3 of that back straight, and they both then sort of topped out side by side. Late on the brakes for Lewis Hamilton, makes the move, so doesn't waste too much time getting through on Esteban Ocon. His next target will be Franco Colapinto's Alpine, who he's already all over the back of. Charles Leclerc has just got through on George Russell on the start-finish straight. Russell now down to 6th. This restart has not gone well for the British driver.
Clever driving that from Lewis Hamilton. He almost thought about trying to go round the outside at turn 1 of Franco Colapinto, but he had a little bit of front wash where basically he lost a little bit of the aero on the front wing and just thought, you know what, that's not the move to be done just yet. I'm going to wait till later on in the lap.
Lap 15 of 56 then, and our first lap back under green flag conditions after a safety car was out for the stricken Aston Martin of Lance Stroll, who is out of this race. Lewis Hamilton through on Colapinto.
Grip.
That was Russell on the radio saying, we've got no grip, as he had a bad restart and has now fallen down to 6th behind Charles Leclerc. The top 4 before the safety car was Antonelli, Russell, Hamilton, Leclerc, all battling it out. Antonelli now has a 1.1 second lead over a fast-charging Lewis Hamilton, who's now through into 2nd. Colapinto and Ocon are the outliers here. They didn't pit. They're in 3rd and 4th for Alpine and Haas, respectively. Charles Leclerc has just got through on George Russell, making gains while Russell struggles with his tyres, down to 6th as Leclerc makes another move now on Esteban Ocon and gets up into 4th spot as a Racing Bulls and a Haas get oh so close further back in the pack. I think that was would have been the Liam Lindblad car, I should say, apologies, and Ollie Behrman down in 7th and 8th at the moment.
And Lewis Hamilton has closed right up to the back of Kimi Antonelli, so the Ferraris right now working really, really nicely, and both Mercedes cars seem to be struggling a little bit for grip as we see Charles Leclerc challenging Colapinto for 3rd place. I think he's going to get the over and under. Yes, he does, going down in towards turn 6.
Yeah, Colapinto didn't exactly move out of the way for that one, did he? It's not his fight, and for those who stayed out on the hard tyre, kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't, as George Russell then makes a decisive move as he managed to recover a little bit of time now on Esteban Ocon, and Russell gets up into 5th, having dived down the inside at the right-hander of turn 6.
It's been a fantastic race so far, hasn't it, Harry? 16 laps in, and everything's happened.
And it's up and down the field as well. We should say 17 runners remain. No Stroll, no Piastri or Norris. Neither McLaren was able to start this race. We're hearing electrical issues, but different electrical issues on both cars. Bortoletto's Audi, I don't think they've said anything about why he didn't start, or I've not seen it. And Alex Albon's Williams, we did get a message from the Williams team who identified a hydraulic issue on Alex's car during laps to the grid. They tried to fix the issue, it's not been possible, so they did not start the race.
And interestingly, on Lance Stroll, as George Russell passes Colapinto's Alpine at last, Lance Stroll had a battery-related issue. Now, batteries and reliability thereof has been Aston Martin's big issue this season so far. And poor Fernando Alonso has fallen to the back of the field. He gained, a bit like in Australia, he gained 7 places on the first lap with a brilliant first lap, and has just gone backwards ever since, as that car's lack of power has shown out against all the rivals with more powerful engines. Now he's trailing around at the back, lapping nearly a second off the next lowest car in front of him, the 2 Cadillacs.
So what it looks like to me is the Mercedes takes longer to get these hard compound tyres into a window. The Ferrari's able to lean on them a little bit earlier, but once the Mercedes gets that hard compound tyre into its happy working range, they're able just to stretch their legs. Kimi Antonelli on the last lap doing the fastest lap of the race, and Lewis Hamilton pushing with all of his might, all of his experience to keep up with the young Italian. But I just imagine now Kimi Antonelli will start to just eke out a little bit of a lead. I might be wrong, Harry, but that's how it's playing out right now.
Yeah, as they swing around the right-hander of turn 13 and we head down the long 1.2 kilometre back straight. Kimi Antonelli, the young 18-year-old who makes his way down towards that late braking zone of turn 14. Hamilton chases, then there's a bit of a gap back to Charles Leclerc and George Russell. The top four, as they were before the safety car, now back in those positions. Colapinto and Ocon 5th and 6th, with Behrman then 7th, and Behrman did come into the pit. So Behrman and Ocon, then I wonder if there might be a bit of Haas manoeuvring going on in the next lap or so, with Gasly, Lindblad and Verstappen making up the remainder of the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they've got to, as there's another yellow flag out on track. We're not entirely sure what that's for right now, but we now see Max Verstappen making his way past Arvid Lindblad.
Just trying to see what the yellow flag might be for, but everyone looks like they're still moving out there, but the yellow flag is still on, so maybe a bit of debris on track. We'll try and bring that to you as and when we get it. But lap 18 of 56 here of the second round of the Formula One World Championship, as we head to the Far East for the Chinese Grand Prix here at the Shanghai International Circuit. We're about 30 kilometers northwest of the city centre, at a track that a lot of drivers love the challenge of, and so far in these 18 laps it's proved intriguing to see this new racing continue to play out in this era of Formula One. Hamilton Radio.
Need more power, mate. We own it.
Hamilton requesting more power. He's got the bit between his teeth, it feels like, Sam.
Yeah, it's great to see a racy Lewis Hamilton, isn't it? Something that we were so used to seeing from 2007 till very recently. We then saw a bit of a dip last year, didn't we? In his first year with Ferrari, looked forlorn the second half of the year, but he's back and really fighting for this, hungry for this elusive win for Ferrari.
Antonelli leads, Hamilton, then a gap to Leclerc. Russell is 4th, as Colapinto and Ocon have a nice fight, and Behrman and Gasly also have a nice fight. This is a nice scrap in the midfield, and they know they could be on for some big points this afternoon, which could be crucial come the end of the year in what is always such a highly competitive midfield battle. Colapinto currently holds 5th ahead of Ocon, then Behrman in 7th, with Gasly 8th, Verstappen right behind this gaggle in 9th, and Arvid Lindblad rounds out the point scorers in 10th.
I think Colapinto's job here has got to be make it hard for Ocon and Behrman, and if you can, put them off so that Gasly can make his way through, because Gasly has those fresher hard compound tyres.
So those who didn't stop, really, Colapinto and Ocon, they need another safety car, don't they, really, to try and get back into this fight, because it looks great for Colapinto right now, but those hard tyres, as long as they can go, everyone behind them on much fresher hard tyres, having stopped under the safety car.
And there's race control, Gasly Verstappen incident, moving under braking noted, so presumably was that Gasly moving under braking on Max Verstappen, or the other way around? I think it was Gasly moving under braking, yes.
Yeah, well, that has been noted. We'll let you know if that gets elevated. That was down at turn 6. I'll tell you what, I'm surprised we haven't heard any team radio on the Haas, from the Haas pit wall yet, because Behrman is right behind teammate Ocon at the moment. Behrman, who has pitted under the safety car, Esteban Ocon didn't, and Haas will know that Colapinto's game here is to try and hold up the Haas cars, as Behrman now slides down the inside, and Colapinto so late on the brakes almost balks Ollie Behrman, who goes into the back of him. That allows Ocon to swing around the outside and almost retake 5th place, but by the time we get to the final corner, Colapinto holds 5th, Behrman's through on his teammate, Ocon into 7th, Gasly's right behind though, but that got a bit dicey down at turn number 14.
Yeah, that could have been very messy, and it looks very close between Behrman and Ocon going through turn 1. Ocon then runs wide on the exit as he doesn't have the front wing. Oh, as Max Verstappen edges out Pierre Gasly through turn 2, gets the move done, but I think that was, I'm coming through, mate, thanks for brake checking me earlier on in the race.
And breathe. Colapinto 5th, Behrman 6th, Ocon 7th, Verstappen 8th, Gasly 9th. Hulkenberg now finds himself up inside the top 10, having not scored points so far this year. Didn't start the race in Australia last week, had to retire from the sprint race yesterday, did the German in his Audi. Just one Audi left, with Gabriel Bortoleto with an issue, not being able to start this race. Lap 20 of 56, what's the gap out in front? Kimi Antonelli leads, having started this race on pole position, and in doing so becoming the youngest ever pole sitter in in Formula One history. He's got a 1.3 second gap over Lewis Hamilton in second. Then comes Charles Leclerc, a few tenths back in third. George Russell is the sound you can hear right now, with overtake mode activated, giving them an extra half a megajoule of deployment from the battery when you're within the designated zones and within a second of the car in front of you. Russell with the fastest lap of anybody in fourth, the top four in a fight of their own, and then there's a gap back to this nice scrap for sixth place, which still Colapinto, fair play to the Argentine, has been doing a great job at holding up the Haas cars for as long as he can, but I fear the writing might be on the wall soon as he's compromised going into the final corner, has to hug that inside line. That will allow Behrman a much better swing out the final corner, more momentum with the Brit. We'll see if he gets the move done as he closes in into turn one, but no, Colapinto holds it.
Yeah, Colapinto doing a great defensive job right now. We're on board with George Russell, having a look inside, outside on the back of Charles Leclerc, unable to do anything right now. But this is unfamiliar territory for George Russell so far this year. All we've seen so far is him sail into the sunset with his teammate Kimi Antonelli coming in second. He's not used to seeing those red Ferrari cars stay in front of him. They have been in front of him at times, but not for prolonged periods. So I think he might be getting a little bit frustrated behind Charles Leclerc. Still a long way to go in this race. We're not even halfway through. But right now, Ferrari able to hold their own.
Lap 21 of 56 then. Antonelli leads. Hamilton, Leclerc, Russell the top four. Colapinto in fifth ahead of Behrman. Verstappen, and his race is suddenly looking a little bit more positive. He's in seventh. Ocon 8th. Gasly and Hülkenberg the top 10. As we head down the back straight, George Russell with a look to the inside of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari. Has a think about it, but holds back and tucks back in underneath as we head towards the final corner.
You just get the sense that Mercedes looks a lot happier at the moment than the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. I think that crossover point has happened now, Harry. That Mercedes starting to work its tyres nicely as the Ferrari is having to push probably just that little bit too much to keep up with the Silver Arrows cars.
Russell also has overtake available to him. Charles Leclerc does not. You can only get it when you're within a second of the car in front of you, and the car in front of Leclerc is Lewis Hamilton, so Leclerc on the back foot there too.
And what overtake does, Harry, is it gives you an extra half a megajoule of energy that you can harvest over a lap, and you can deploy it for longer. So we'll see how George Russell deploys that. He's still a little bit more than half a second behind Charles Leclerc. Can't quite get on terms with him at the moment despite that extra energy.
Oh, and that moving under braking, Gasly and Verstappen incident has again been noted. And it got rather tight going into turn 1 and 2. We just had a look at it, Sam, properly. Your thoughts as a driver?
I'm not sure whether that was the incident.
Yeah, that wasn't fair. 1 year of the... Yeah, I'm sorry, that wasn't fair.
Copy that, mate. We've reported it.
I mean, in Formula E, that would have been an absolutely fine move. I'm not sure about in Formula 1. No, I don't. I think that drivers these days, when they get overtaken and pushed a little bit wide, you're straight on the radio saying it wasn't fair, he's pushed me. I think that was fine from Max Verstappen going through turn 2 and into turn 3. He did leave room, and Gasly's car didn't leave the track.
Yeah, and you're right, that wasn't the turn 6 incident for moving under braking, which is still noted, hasn't been elevated yet. Also through from race control, incident involving Behrman and Lindblad at turn 15. That has been reviewed with no further investigation, so they are free to race it out inside the top 10, although both Racing Bulls have now fallen outside of the top 10. Lawson down in 11th, Arvid Lindblad in 12th. Then comes Hadjar in 13th after a spin in the early stages of this race. So I'm right at the back of the field. The safety car allowing the Frenchman to get back into this race, but he's rather stuck there in the lower end of the midfield. Sainz, Bottas, Perez and Alonso, the 17 remaining runners.
What's interesting about this battle for the lead at the moment, the top 4 cars, okay, Antonelli's got just under 2 seconds from Hamilton, but then Hamilton, Leclerc and Russell are basically nose to tail. It seems to be proving what people have been fearing about these new cars in 2026. You get these frantic scraps in the first few laps when people are swapping overtake and boost mode and what have you, but once the race settles down, lots of people, senior people, team principals and so on, engineers, have been concerned that overtaking is going to become really difficult at that point, and that's what we seem to be seeing with Russell, Hamilton and Leclerc at the moment. Russell, despite that extra boost from the overtake mode, just can't get on terms with Leclerc. The race is kind of stuck at the moment, and it's another one of these things that the sport as a whole is considering after these first 3 races as to what can be done to tweak things.
But is this not what usually happens regardless of regulation?
Yeah, but the hope was that the feel was that it would be even worse than before, and maybe it isn't even worse. Maybe it's exactly the same as it was before. But the fundamental point is it's not working in the way that they had hoped, and the boost mode, the overtake mode, is not powerful enough to get someone ahead, even if they seem to have a pace advantage. Maybe they don't have a pace advantage. Maybe that isn't the case right now. But I'm just saying that it does. It's just quite a contrast. You've got 4 cars circulating in tandem at the start of the sprint race and at the start of the Australian Grand Prix. There was lots of swapping and of changing of positions. Now, mid-race in China, still 4 cars in tandem basically, but nothing happening.
It looks like Charles Leclerc is actually on average about 2 tenths quicker than Lewis Hamilton per lap at the moment. Lewis struggling to keep on the back of Kimi Antonelli, fallen about 2.5 seconds now off the back of the young Italian, and with bringing Charles Leclerc onto the back of his gearbox, also the threat of George Russell looms large. Yeah,
his hard tyres doing well and can go very long into this race. For those who pitted for fresh hards underneath the safety car, you're almost laughing, whereas it's a shame for the likes of Franco Colapinto, Esteban Ocon up in 7th and 8th, who started on the hard tyre. The hard tyre still running well, still clearly durable, but they will have to come in for a pit stop at some point.
They will have to indeed, and they'll be praying. Charles Leclerc down the inside of his teammate Lewis Hamilton.
Caught by surprise was Lewis Hamilton there, and that's brought George Russell right into the fight as we approach the final corner. Hamilton has to defend from Russell. Leclerc's through and up into 2nd place as they all now file down the start, finish straight. Hamilton lining that up for a while. Meanwhile, Gasly and Ocon right behind them are going side by side down in the back straight. Hamilton and Leclerc fighting though through turns 1 and 2. The 2 Ferraris side by side coming oh so close to contact. Leclerc shoving Hamilton to the outside of the track, cuts back inside. The Ferraris battling. Leclerc escapes up the road. Hamilton now under pressure from George Russell's Mercedes down towards the right-hander of turn 5. Russell to the outside, cuts back to the inside, can't get on the throttle as early as Hamilton. It's Leclerc, Hamilton and Russell 2nd, 3rd and 4th. I can't tell you how close that was, everybody. I was holding my breath there. The battle between these 3, absolutely world-class driving, but Charles Leclerc really got his elbows out there. The attitude of Lewis Hamilton's car, he was not happy with getting overtaken by his Ferrari teammate. Tried to send it around the outside at turn 1, but Charles Leclerc slammed the door shut through turn 2 and into turn 3. Said absolutely not, I'm the faster of both of us right now. I'm going to try and get after Kimi Antonelli. Well, while they all battle, exactly, Leclerc was desperate to get through because Antonelli now has a 4.3 second gap out in front, made that 4.4. Leclerc 2nd, Hamilton still right there with him. Russell is 4th. These 3 all line astern coming into turn 14. Then there's a big old gap back to Ollie Behrman, who's got Verstappen, Colapinto, Ocon, Gasly, Hulkenberg for company. That's the remainder of the top 10. They are your point scorers as it currently stands.
I mean, all this fighting between this trio of cars, Leclerc, Hamilton and Russell, is absolutely superb really for Kimi Antonelli. He's just able to control his pace, manage his battery management and look after his tyres. So right now Kimi Antonelli must be absolutely thrilled with the way that things are going.
Kimi Antonelli, who is chasing a maiden Grand Prix victory this afternoon in China, and after a slow start from both Mercedes, made to look even slower because the Ferraris are so quick off the start, held his nerve, managed to get back in the lead. Good safety car restart from the young 19-year-old Italian, and now edging that gap out in front up to 5 seconds just underneath from Charles Leclerc's Ferrari, who's got close company still from Lewis Hamilton. Russell 4th, Behrman's running well in 5th ahead of Verstappen, Colapinto, Ocon, Gasly, Hulkenberg the top 10. Then it's Lawson, Hadjar's up to 12th ahead of Lindblad, Sainz is 14th. The 2 Cadillacs still in this race, Bottas 15th ahead of Perez, both ahead of Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin, which is the 17th and last runner in this race. Lance Stroll retiring out on track. The two McLarens of Piastri and Norris never even got going. Separate electrical issues with Bortoletto and Albon both out. As we head back down to turn 14, peeling out to the side of the road, Hamilton gets back in front of Charles Leclerc and retakes second place.
Oh, please, guys, just keep it nice and calm and don't do anything silly between you. But this fight is just absolutely frenetic, isn't it? As now Charles Leclerc comes back at Lewis Hamilton, and will he overtake again? Yes, he will, going through turn 1. What's Lewis Hamilton going to say about that? Oh, and so close into turn 2.
Oh, Hamilton has to mount the curb on the inside of the apex. Front left for Hamilton, so close to rear right for Charles Leclerc. The two Scarlet Ferraris shining as they make their way out of turn 3 through the right-hand kink of 5 down to the inside. At turn 6, Hamilton tries to hug the apex, and later on the brakes, Hamilton wants that place back, but Charles Leclerc says no, or does he? Side by side through the left-hand sweeper of turn 7. Hamilton and Leclerc side by side still round the right-hand sweeper of turn 8. Hit the brakes, double left-hander of turn 9 and 10. It's corner after corner. It's side by side for the two Ferraris, and it's Charles Leclerc in front. But this fight has brought in Mercedes' George Russell, who's sitting there and lurking and waiting for the invitation.
Well, Harry, you're not going to have any voice left at the end of this race if this continues. Oh my gosh.
That was incredible
stuff. But the gap now at the front, Antonelli's gone. These three fighting so hard. He's nearly 7 seconds up the road as George Russell now overtakes Lewis Hamilton with that extra battery pack usage. Lewis Hamilton down to 4th. All that brilliant racing between the two Ferraris has brought George Russell into the podium positions as we speak. But it's going to rumble on and on and on, Harry.
You can hear the roar from the crowd, who are loving seeing this battle and the back and forth. And now it's Antonelli, who is 7 seconds up the road, leading this Grand Prix on lap 28 of 56. Charles Leclerc holds second. He's now got George Russell in third. Hamilton, the loser after that battle, he's down to 4th. Might take a lap to recover, get his tyres back down to temperature. Yellow flag out on track though, and it is the Racing Bulls, so it's just facing backwards. It's Arvid Lindblad. He gets it going again. That's down at turn 5, and that won't cause any kind of safety car because he's back up and running.
No, it looks like Lewis Hamilton had a really low battery pack at the beginning of this lap, which is why he's fallen just on the best part of a second behind George Russell. I think he needs to just recharge that battery and then go again the following lap.
We're getting a look and a clip of Arvid Lindblad, who was making his way down towards turn 14, hits the brakes, lock up on the front left, turns it in, and then round he goes.
Yeah, not ideal that for Arvid Lindblad.
As the sole remaining Williams of Carlos Sainz gets through up into 13th spot. Bit of a lonely race for those at the back outside of the top 12. Sainz, Lindblad, Bottas, Perez and Alonso, the 17 runners that remain. No Stroll, no McLarens, no Bortoletto and no Albon, as George Russell now fancies a go at retaking second place here. Down towards the right-hander of turn 14 we go. Leclerc has to defend, compromised on the exit. George Russell slides in right underneath the Mercedes. They're going nose to tail through the final corner, the left-hand flick of turn 16, as we then head back onto the start-finish straight while they battle. That is bringing Hamilton back into the frame. Russell with both boost and overtake, using up all of his battery down the start-finish straight, has to harvest it and recharge going through turns 1 and 2. That just costs him them a bit of time as we head through the left-hander of 3.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton, a massive snap of oversteer as he tried to turn into turn 1 and had to regather the car up all the way through and into the apex at turn 2. He's just fallen away a little bit, hasn't he?
They're just fast in all the right places.
Yeah, George Russell basically saying this is a real struggle to get past the Ferraris. He feels like he's faster, which he is. That Mercedes car has more potential than the prancing horses, but right now unable to make his way past.
A bit of fighting in the midfield continues. Gasly's now through on his teammate Colapinto, up into 7th. Colapinto still fighting with Esteban Ocon in 8th and 9th, with Hulkenberg half a second behind in 10th. It's the top 10 that score points in Formula 1, and Antonelli looking to bag 25 points, 7 seconds up the road and in the lead of this Grand Prix on lap 29 of 56.
Yeah, so for George Russell, those first sticky laps after the safety car restart, when he was on cold tyres, he's now attacking Charles Leclerc down into turn 14. He gets past nice and smooth, made that look easy compared to all the struggles he's been having for the last 10 laps. But losing those positions as he did in the first couple of laps after the safety car, tangled up with the back marker or the midfield, allowed the Ferraris to get back in front of him. That's really, really cost him. Kimi Antonelli's now 7.6 seconds clear at the front of the field. And for George Russell's sake, I fear this race is now lost.
Is this the release, though, that George Russell needs? He's back through and up into 2nd, although that rear end of the Mercedes does look like it likes to get out of shape. Twitches going through the final corner, almost sliding through the right hander of turn 2, just allows Leclerc to close up slightly.
Yeah, basically 8 seconds ahead now, Kimi Antonelli. If George Russell wants to get after and try and win this race, he's got to find some serious pace now, get his foot down. But will the tyres hold on? Does he have the pace advantage over his teammate? I don't think he has. I don't think that he's got enough underneath him to catch back up these 8 seconds. He's had a hard last 10 or 12 laps trying to get past these people. Kimi Antonelli's been able to look after his tyres nicely.
Esteban Ocon has just come into the pits for a fresh set of medium tyres. He and Colapinto were the ones that made huge gains by not pitting under the safety car. So Ocon has now bowed out of that fight, and it's cost him as he falls all the way to the back of the field. Colapinto still out there on that hard tyre, which he's run from the beginning in 8th behind his teammate Gasly, who did pit and is now back up to 7th.
Yeah, and he hasn't dropped off too much, Colapinto, so to be honest, for this old set of hard compound tyres that he's on, he's done a very, very nice job in this Grand Prix. It's a shame that he'd started on the hard and that's effectively compromised his race by not pitting, but I'd say Colapinto's had a solid day.
Let's see, there's still a lot more to unfold in Shanghai as we start lap 31 of 56. It was the 2 Mercedes that started on the front row. Kimi Antonelli on pole alongside George Russell. The 2 Ferraris of Hamilton and Leclerc right behind and on cue at the start. Both Ferraris with now what we're used to after one race and all the pre-season testing. Quick off the line. Hamilton through to take the lead in the early stages, but then Antonelli managing to retake the lead a couple of laps later and had some great dicing between the top 4, who started to pull away at the top of the field as the midfield battle was starting to shape up nicely. The likes of the Alpine shooting up at the start of the race, up into the top 6 for both Gasly and Colapinto, with bad starts once again for Max Verstappen and his Red Bull falling all the way to the back of the pack, and for his teammate Isaac Hadjar, who found himself in a spin coming around turn 13, fighting with Ollie Behrman in the opening stages. Red Bull having a tough weekend, but then a safety car coming out for a stricken Aston Martin of Lance Stroll with battery issues, pulling up on the exit of turn 2. That brought out the safety car, neutralised the race, and the majority of the field took advantage of it, coming into the pit lane to get rid of their starting tyres and put on a fresh set of hard tyres. Those tyres can go the furthest distance in this race, and George Russell initially getting back out into the lead, but Kimi Antonelli initially getting back out into the lead, having pitted as well, and that is where he has stayed, while Russell didn't get the best safety car restart and has been embroiled in a fight with the 2 Ferraris of Leclerc and Hamilton for quite some time now, but has now found his way through. And is that the final battle we'll see between Russell and the Ferraris, who are now falling back a bit? Leclerc ahead of Hamilton, who have also been going wheel to wheel throughout this race. It's been an intriguing 32 laps so far of the Chinese Grand Prix, with still more questions to be answered.
Yeah, I think once Charles Leclerc falls back more than 1 second behind the back of George Russell, Lewis Hamilton will close on to the back of Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc, you know, on that overtake right now to keep with Russell. The moment he falls over 1 second behind, Lewis Hamilton will be right back to the back of him.
That's your top four: Antonelli, Russell, Leclerc and Hamilton. Then comes Behrman in 5th, running really well in the Haas. Verstappen's up to 6th in what's been a struggling weekend for the Red Bull. Gasly, Colapinto, Hülkenberg and Lawson the top 10. Hadjar is 11th ahead of Sainz. Lindblad, Ocon, Bottas the top 15. Perez and Alonso the 17 remaining runners. Alonso's actually just come into the pit lane in his Aston Martin. Stroll's out, so too is the Williams of Alex Albon and Gabriel Bortoletto. The 2 McLarens as well, also out of this race, never started.
Plan C could come into play. Copy that.
Plan C for Ferrari and Charles Leclerc.
Well, you know they use the whole alphabet of Ferrari, don't you? I think Plan C, Harry, would be a 2-stop.
That would make sense. Plan A would be a 1-stop.
What's Plan B?
Depends on which tyre you started on.
Oh, well done, Harry.
Hey.
Oh,
he's getting there.
It's not your first rodeo, is it?
No, it is not. Right, so let's see. Plan C potentially then having to convert to a 2-stop for Charles Leclerc, who is out there on the hard tyre and was one of the runners who pitted just before the safety car came out on lap 10 for Lance Stroll. So it has been out there a fair while, but now they have dropped back from Russell. 1.1 seconds actually between the 2 Ferraris, 3rd and 4th. And what's the gap to Russell? 1.7 seconds.
So Franco Colapinto now in the pits, getting rid of those very worn, very used hard compound tyres. He'll be moving onto the medium compound. His fight now is, unfortunately, with Esteban Ocon down in a lowly 14th to 15th place. Maybe that'll improve as they will have much better tyres as the race progresses. You heard Charles Leclerc there maybe thinking about a 2-stop as well, but I think he will then wait to see what the people around him do and see if they're looking to pit as well. There's a huge gap between Hamilton and Behrman for the lead 4 to slot into, as that now there's a yellow flag on track.
Oh, and it's the Haas of Esteban Ocon and Colapinto of Alpine, who are so close coming out of the pit lane. It looks like they've made contact. Ocon with damage to the side pod. He's got back going again. Looked like that came through turns 1 and 2. They were about a 10th apart as Colapinto fed back out into this race. Has Colapinto got damage? He's just ahead of Bottas's Cadillac. Let's see what happened here. Now, Esteban Ocon had an incredibly slow stop, over 5 seconds. Colapinto gets fed out after his pit stop, has the gap, and then Ocon sweeps round through the right-hander, cuts in underneath, and they both collide at the apex. Rear right and front left, and round they go.
That was messy, wasn't it, between the two of them? Esteban Ocon goes wide on the entry and then just goes for the cutback, and I don't think Colapinto is expecting it. He went into a disappearing gap, but Colapinto was not expecting that move whatsoever. Wasn't looking in his mirrors, didn't see that Esteban Ocon was there.
He was already going. Ocon was already going round before that contact was made.
Because he realised he was going into an area where there was not going to be any gap.
But that's the way that corner works, isn't it? Colapinto clearly had colder tyres and got loose coming into the right-hander, which is why he went wide. But that corner, it drops away from you, doesn't it? So, I mean, look, I'm not a driver, but I think Esteban Ocon probably should have read that one a little bit better.
I think so.
Glad you said that.
You can come and do some work for the FIA and some VAR stewarding if you want.
Get me on there. And Ocon actually even admits it. Yeah, that was my fault. Wow, what's going on today? You never hear drivers admitting faults.
It's nice to hear, though. And Fernando Alonso has retired his Aston Martin. Look, we knew that Aston Martin were going to have a very tricky start to the year, but he's actually got further into the race than what we could have imagined. I think 35 laps of data for the Aston Martin team with Fernando Alonso, and it's a small improvement.
So now Russell's got past the Ferraris, as we know, 2 or 3 laps ago, and he's now stretching a lead. He's got 3 seconds on Charles Leclerc already after a couple of laps. He's very, very, very slowly eating into Kimi Antonelli's lead. It's gone from 7.9 seconds to 7.4 seconds, but that's nowhere near enough to catch before the end of the race. So I think we're looking at a pretty stable situation now between the 2 Mercedes drivers in 1 and 2, unless something happens.
I suppose Kimi Antonelli can just run his own race and has been for the last few laps. He's got clear air out in front of him, can run the as efficiently as he likes, saving energy in all the right places, not having to deploy or over deploy. So for him, he can be managing out in front right now.
Well, also managing the tyres, Harry.
And that.
and it just shows how costly is Hamilton's radio.
I have no power. Okay. Give me something. It's FW usable. I come out of the last corner, I've got no power.
Negative, we are looking into that.
That was Hamilton saying he was coming out of the final corner and has no power. He's still running out there down the back straight at the moment, but he wants more power from the engine, and Ferrari doing the classic, looking into it.
Yeah, and it just goes to show how costly those first couple of laps after the safety car have been for
Charles Leclerc is now finding himself behind Lewis Hamilton. Has there been a problem between the two Ferraris? Hamilton's back to third, round the final corner. Has Leclerc made a mistake? Did he make a lock-up coming into turn 14 and run deep? We'll have to get another look at it. Leclerc going to fight right back round the outside of turn 1. Here we go again between the two Ferraris. Hamilton has the edge though on this front as they concertina up at the apex through the right-hander, then the left. Hamilton up into third, having just been on the radio complaining of lack of power problems, and Leclerc now finds himself behind Hamilton. There was over a second between them at one point. Must have been some sort of mistake from Charles Leclerc.
Or just the way that their battery management was going at the time, Harry. But there was a huge gap down the back straight. I'd be really interested to see an onboard replay from the point of view from Lewis Hamilton of how that transpired down the back straight, because it looked for all the world like he was nowhere near overtaking.
Interesting. That incident, by the way, under investigation between Colapinto and Ocon as Hulkenberg comes into the pit lane. As soon as we get any kind of replay of what happened to Charles Leclerc, we will let you know. As of yet, we do not know. Antonelli leads this race by 7.4 seconds. Then a further 5.5 seconds back is Lewis Hamilton. Charles Leclerc still there with him. This is the sound of the monogas. Behrman in a race on his own, really, down in 5th, but running well, looking to bag 10 points for himself and Haas as he gets so close to the back of Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari to Charles Leclerc. Late on the brakes there, up to 5th gear. Saving battery coming into the final corner. He'll get the aid of overtake, giving you an extra half a megajoule to deploy for longer as Lewis Hamilton uses up the final of his boost, asking for maximum power from both engine and battery to stay ahead of his teammate. It's 3rd and 4th for the two Ferraris. Behrman 5th, Verstappen 6th, Gasly, Lawson, Hadjar Sainz the top 10.
10-second time ban penalty for Esteban Ocon for causing that collision between himself and Franco Colapinto. Colapinto having what I thought was a really solid race, but now down outside the top 10, and this fight between the two Ferraris just continues to amaze us all. I think it's absolutely brilliant to see Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton going wheel to wheel, but I think this will just rumble on and on. Meanwhile, George Russell has disappeared down the road, the best part of 6 seconds ahead now of Lewis Hamilton. George Russell is eking into Kimi Antonelli, but not at a rate that would worry Kimi Antonelli right now.
Lap 37 of 56 then, and the top 4 is still two Mercedes and two Ferraris. Russell now through on the Ferraris, up into second, 7.2 seconds away from Antonelli. The two Ferraris, just as we thought the battle was settling down, a suspected mistake from Charles Leclerc down the back straight and into turn 14 has allowed Hamilton back through and up into third. Behrman, Verstappen, Gasly, Lawson, Hadjar, Sainz the top 10. So Hadjar and Sainz, who started at the back, Hadjar, who had a spin early doors, and Sainz, who's in a car that is not quick enough, holding on to the final point at the moment. Arvid Lindblad is 11th. Franco Colapinto, who was running up in the top 3 at one point, has now pitted onto the medium tyre down to 12th. Ocon with a 10-second time penalty now in 13th, ahead of Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez. Good to see the two Cadillacs still out there running. They're ahead of the Audi of Nico Hulkenberg, who has also come in for a first stop and put on the medium tyre. He is now the 16th and last runner. We've lost Fernando Alonso and Aston Martin's Lance Stroll. Both Astons out of this one. They have yet to finish a race in 2026. Both McLarens are out as well. Piastri and Norris failed to start the race, along with Bortoletto's Audi and Williams' Alex Albon.
So there is a difference in deployment between Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc right now. Charles Leclerc using more of his battery pack down the straight into turn 14, but then Lewis has more to defend out of 16 and into turn 1.
Meanwhile, up front, it's a clear view for Kimi Antonelli, but not for that much longer, as he's about to get a lot of traffic. He's catching up to the back of Nico Hülkenberg's Audi, and then he's got Perez, Bottas, Ocon and Colapinto, who will try and clear as quick as he can, but could have an effect for Antonelli. Might lose a bit of time and allow Russell to close up. But then Russell will have to navigate the traffic just as his teammate.
So interestingly, Russell had set the fastest lap of the race on the previous lap. Antonelli's just answered him by stabilising the gap on the next lap, but Russell was only I can't quite read that, 3,000ths behind him, so they're both pushing really hard. But Antonelli was basically saying with that response lap, whatever you can throw at me, I've got it under control, mate.
It's a solid weekend for Kimi Antonelli, solid race for Kimi Antonelli, who did the business in qualifying, put it on pole.
I'd say more than solid if you're leading a Formula One race.
I didn't want to jinx him, Sam, that's why.
He's having a really good run here in China, driving superbly. Second year, remember, in Formula One. Last year came under a little bit of criticism in the mid part of the season, wasn't very good in that middle phase, made quite a few mistakes, but now looks like a genuine threat to George Russell, doesn't he?
Also, I've just seen a helmet camera view on Charles Leclerc. I just think it's incredible that you can go through the fast sweepers of turns 7 and 8, where your steering wheel is left, then right, and be making switch changes on the steering wheel at the same time. I just think that's incredible.
And that's why you're in here and we get to put the helmets on and go out there and do the job.
Quite right too.
Remember though, Harry, 7 and 8 here, they're very fast corners, but they're a pair of corners that the drivers have been using as an example of what's wrong with these new generation of F1 cars. They're harvesting energy through those corners. So here's Leclerc attacking Hamilton again, Harry.
Down the back straight, into the braking zone, Leclerc to the inside. Hamilton tries to get the switch back, gets onto the throttle, tries to keep his nose in it as we approach the final left-hander of turn 16. Leclerc back in front then, and up and into third.
And watch the battery pack now of Lewis Hamilton. Will he now attack going into turn 1? It's very close, goes down the inside, but Charles Leclerc runs deep. Lewis Hamilton's got the inside line. What's going to happen in turn 2? And Lewis Hamilton is back through again. This fight just keeps on going and going.
These two made contact here last year going into turns 1 and 2, and they have been so close to doing it again. Leclerc, I think, just thought better of it on that occasion and backed out. But then coming into turn 6, side by side, Hamilton to the inside, Leclerc to the outside. Leclerc tries to cut back as we now approach those sweepers of turn 7 and 8. Into the left-hander we go. This is a corner now that is crucial for harvesting energy, ready to deploy on the next straight. 2 double left-handers we go through 8 and 9, and then the short blast down towards the braking zone of turn number 11.
It's like a Ferrari overtaking exhibition out there between these two, isn't it?
It's fantastic. Thank goodness for Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton.
They are,
you are right.
But they are so close on pace, and the way the regulations work now with this overtake and boost, if you're the lead car, it's very difficult to stay in the lead for prolonged periods of time, because the car behind has such a pace advantage with extra boost that you can always stay with the car in front, especially in the same machinery. And we're seeing such a great show between these two drivers, and it's great that they're giving each other room. They're racing fairly, and I hope that continues for the next 15 laps.
Lap 41 of 56. Antonelli leads by 6.3 seconds to George Russell. That gap coming down. Hamilton third, still with Charles Leclerc all over his gearbox, but not side by side on this time around. Leclerc now has overtake available to him. That half a megajoule of extra power to deploy for longer when you're within a second of the car in front, and doesn't close up in the run down to turn 6. Behrman 5th, Verstappen 6th, Gasly, Lawson, Hadjar and Sainz the top 10.
When was the last time we saw Lewis Hamilton this feisty? I mean, really got the bit between his teeth. This is, for a Lewis Hamilton fan, this must be so good to watch. We're used to seeing Charles Leclerc get his elbows out and fight people towards the front, but we haven't seen this kind of racing from Lewis Hamilton for a while. But Lewis Hamilton fans, Lewis Hamilton is back towards his best.
And looking at a first Grand Prix podium for Ferrari. Of course, remember, it was here last year. He stood on the top step in the sprint.
It's actually quite a battle.
I'm glad.
Charles Leclerc, that's actually quite a fun battle. Or did you say big battle or fun battle?
What quite a fun battle.
I mean,
what
battle.
a great radio message.
Yeah.
It just goes to show they're competing for third place in the Grand Prix. They're racing their hearts out. They're giving each other only just enough room. This is absolutely fantastic racing between two of the greatest drivers in Formula One.
Lap 42 of 56, and the gap now just starting to peter out though between the two Ferraris. 1.2 seconds. Antonelli, Russell, Hamilton, Leclerc, the top four. Behrman, Verstappen, Gasly, Lawson, Hadjar, Sainz, the top 10. No Aston Martins in this race, both retiring. No Bortoletto, Audi, he didn't start the race. Neither did Alex Albon's Williams. We also didn't see either of the two McLarens make the start of this race. Separate electrical issues, we believe, for both of them. Let's hear from one of them now, Oscar Piastri.
Oscar, must be so frustrating, especially after last weekend. What can you tell us about what happened on your side?
It was an electrical problem on the power unit, different to Lando's. So yeah, just very unfortunate to both have issues, but we don't fully know any more than that at this point. So yeah, obviously disappointing.
Yeah, both cars being affected. How do you move forward from this one? It's a tough one to take, isn't it?
I think try and learn what we can by watching the race, and yeah, then after that, yeah, just trying to do as much work as we can before Japan. You know, I think obviously the problems today have been annoying, but I think besides that, we know we've got work to do to find more performance, so that's what we'll try and focus on.
Oscar Piastri then. So a suspected electrical issue on the other McLaren too. Not a great day for McLaren in China. It's been a busy week of sport. These are the latest headlines coming in too today. Well, let's hear from Antonelli's radio first.
Oh mate, this traffic is so bad. Yeah, copy.
And it is that traffic that Antonelli has now caused. He's on the back of Nico Hulkenberg and Esteban Ocon. The gap, though, between himself and Russell was 7.4 seconds. So Russell will have to deal with the same traffic when he gets it. The gap between the two Ferraris starting to maintain at about 1.4 seconds. But Charles Leclerc, having just been on the radio saying this is a really fun battle, I think would like to get him back ahead of Lewis Hamilton and see some more overtaking. But in the build-up to this weekend, of course, and to today, it was a thrilling Six Nations final match which saw France beat England by 48 points to 46 to successfully defend their title. The two teams scored 7 tries apiece, with the match coming down to a final penalty in Paris. Earlier title contenders Ireland beat Scotland by 43 points to 21, whilst Wales ended their 15-game losing streak in the Six Nations, beating Italy 31-17. The Premier League has a new youngest ever goal scorer. 16-year-old Max Dowman capped off a late 2-0 win for Arsenal over Everton. Arsenal's lead at the top of the Premier League is 9 points after Manchester City were held to a 1-1 draw by West Ham. They still have one game in hand though. Newcastle won 1-0 against Chelsea for their first league victory at Stamford Bridge since 2012. Brighton were 1-0 winners away to Sunderland. Burnley against Bournemouth finished goalless, and we've got a big day of sport coming up as well right here on 5 Live. Good morning to you if you're just joining us. This is 5 Live F1 with coverage from Shanghai of the Chinese Grand Prix, setting us up for a busy day across the network. We're building up to today's Premier League fixtures on 5 Live Sport with Steve Crossman from midday. 2 o'clock live commentary, Man United against Aston Villa. Sports Extra from 1:30 we'll have Nottingham Forest against Fulham. Crystal Palace against Leeds United is on Sports Extra 2 at 1:55. Updates of both those games on 5 Live. There's also Women's League Cup football action. Chelsea v Man United in the Women's League Cup final on Sports Extra 3 from 2 p.m. Then from 4 o'clock our attention turns to Liverpool v Tottenham with kickoff at 4:30 on 5 Live, and I know our F1 producer Joe will be glued to that game later on today. Right now, though, it's the Chinese Grand Prix. It's Harry Benjamin up with you in the commentary box. Formula E driver Sam Bird alongside me, and the BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson. It's lap 44 of 56. Kimi Antonelli leads. Russell, Hamilton, Leclerc, the top 4.
Ollie Behrman up in P5 doing a fantastic job. Max Verstappen just not able to do anything about the Haas driver right now. It's been stuck behind him for most of this middle phase of the race, but as the race comes into the final 11 laps, will we see the 4-time world champion make a move on the young Brit?
Let's see where the closer gaps are at the moment. Max Verstappen is a couple of seconds behind Ollie Behrman in 5th. Behrman's running a really good race, isn't he? Up
just
in 5th.
Copy what I say.
That's what you just said, sorry. I was busy plugging some water, sorry Sam. Verstappen 6th. Gasly again as well, looking to score some good points in 7th. Lawson back up inside the top 8. Hadjar, decent recovery drive so far from the Frenchman. Sainz could well nick a much needed point for Williams.
Huge point for Williams that would be. Obviously there's 11 laps to go, and he's got a fast charging Franco Colapinto on the medium compound tyres behind him, but considering what they've been through these first 2 races of the season, Williams would dearly love to score a point and get their season up and running.
He will have Franco Colapinto though to contend with, who is on much fresher tyres and closing in on Carlos Sainz. Colapinto could really do with getting a point on the board here, and is currently 4.6 seconds behind Carlos Sainz, so we'll keep an eye on that one. So crucial points for those. Colapinto, who's had a really good race so far, it has to be said, rather ruined by the safety car, but teammate Gasly up in 6th as we've got Max Verstappen. Is that a Max Verstappen going slowly? It is. Let's hear on the radio actually saying, okay Max, let's retire the car please. That's the message from Gianpiero Lambiase, Max Verstappen's race engineer, who pulls to the inside down at turn number 10 to get out of the way. Verstappen retiring from the Grand Prix.
If he pulls over to the side of the track somewhere, then we could be seeing a virtual safety car. He looked to pull it over to the side of the road a minute ago and opted to continue, but if he were to stop at the side of the track, that would mean for the likes of George Russell a free stop to go onto a set of medium tyre or soft tyres until the end of the race to attack Kimi Antonelli.
It looks like he's still able to keep that going. He's making his way down the back straight now, running slowly, staying well offline. Gasly goes through and up into 6th. Lawson goes through up into 7th. Hadjar up into 8th. Sainz goes through into 9th, followed by Colapinto. Hülkenberg could well get a point here if he can close up on Franco Colapinto once through on Max Verstappen, but compounding a miserable weekend for the Dutchman, who has not had a happy start to his 2026 campaign.
No, it's been challenging, but they've been up against it, haven't they, Red Bull, with incorporation with Ford now bringing the engines in-house. Let's have a listen to the engine as he goes into turn 6, Harry. Oh, just no drive off the corner, absolutely no drive.
For an engine that was praised massively throughout pre-season testing, this Red Bull powertrain in partnership with Ford. Now we don't know what the exact issue is, but just hearing the sounds of it there, you can deduce some aspect of it, but certainly seems like they are finding some holes with the new engine that Red Bull have undertaken a huge task in building.
And Kimi Antonelli, in the meantime, has just set the fastest lap of the race and really put a marker down to George Russell, saying, right, I might be your younger teammate, but I'm not going to be bullied by you this season, George. I'm going to be fighting you all the way for this World Championship if it is between the 2 Mercedes drivers.
This will be Max Verstappen's first retirement in Formula 1 since Austria last year, where he came together with Kimi Antonelli. It will only be his 3rd DNF in the last 4 Formula 1 seasons as he makes his way back into the garage. The car is put up on the jacks and he climbs out of it. Max Verstappen is out of this race and we're down to 15 cars. Out in front, the gap extends. 8.8 seconds for Kimi Antonelli, on course for victory. If he can just keep his head down, he will take a maiden Grand Prix victory come the checkered flag. George Russell behind in 2nd. Hamilton now making his way through on Leclerc after we never saw what happened to Leclerc. They didn't show if he made a mistake, so we can't tell you for sure.
Leclerc's dropped now 3.5 seconds off the back of Lewis Hamilton. Okay, with the boost that he had down the back straight, make that 3.1. Just going to show how powerful the overtake and the boost is in these Formula One cars now. But maybe just starting to struggle on those hard compound tyres in this phase of the race.
Hamilton and Leclerc, third and fourth. Behrman fifth, 3 seconds clear of Gasly. Lawson seventh, ahead of Hadjar. Sainz is ninth. Colapinto is 10th. And it looks like Esteban Ocon is serving his 10-second time penalty and going for a late pit stop, sticking on a pair of soft tyres, running to the end. And looks like they've got... What on earth are they doing on that Haas? They've got a massive, almost crowbar.
They've got some clippers out, and they are
clippers.
a bit like wire clippers. They're basically cutting off a little bit of loose carbon fibre that was flapping around and causing havoc with the turbulent air around the side pod.
It looks like something you'd find in the garden shed.
It probably was.
So Ocon then does come out after a lengthy pit stop. He'll put on the soft tyres, go to the end on those, but he falls down into 15th place in that Haas, and last behind the two Cadillacs still running in this race, Bottas and Perez. This is great data collecting for the newest team in Formula One, 13th and 14th.
Yeah, doing a good job there.
Sorry, Sam. We've had an update from Aston Martin. We saw Fernando Alonso retire a few laps ago. They've tweeted that was because of discomfort, because of vibrations from the car. Now, remember, a week or so ago, at the start of the season, the Thursday of the Australian Grand Prix, Adrian Newey, the team principal there, said that the vibrations from that car were so bad that Alonso was saying that he believed he couldn't do more than 25 laps at the time without risking permanent nerve damage. His teammate Lance Stroll had said 15 to the team. Now, they've worked at isolating the vibrations from the battery that were causing, vibrations from the engine that were causing the batteries to fail. But they were very clear at the time that they were unable to stop those vibrations going through the chassis and therefore into the driver's hands. So this is obviously in Australia, neither car ran long enough for this to be an issue, but Alonso had done more than half the race distance, I believe, and so it's obviously been an issue that's come up, and it just underlines how much hard work they've got to do at that team. He was at the back of the field, stone last, when he did pull into the pits for the last time.
Yeah, for Fernando Alonso then, another tough day at the office for Aston Martin. Joined on the retirements list, or the not even starting this race list, by the two McLarens of Piastri and Norris, Gabriel Bortoletto's Audi, and the Williams of Alex Albon, and now Max Verstappen, who retires from this race. 15 runners left. Antonelli now with a 9.3 second lead as we approach lap 50 of 56. Russell second, Hamilton third, 3.1 seconds ahead of Leclerc. Behrman in fifth, Gasly, Lawson, Hadjar, Sainz and Colapinto the top 10. Then comes Hülkenberg in 11th. Lindblad is 12th, ahead of the two Cadillacs of Bottas and Perez. Ocon 15th, having served his 10-second time penalty and come in for a late pit stop. And 15th and last.
Yeah, happy for the Cadillac boys. I know how hard everybody has worked on that project and how late in the day it was announced. They didn't have long to get it up and running. So if they can get both cars across the finish line here in only their second race, I think that is cause for celebration. Yeah,
I'd say so. Had to retire one of their cars last weekend in Australia in the form of Valtteri Bottas, but for a team that's had a lot of issues this weekend, various system issues, fuel pump issues as well. Perez not getting much running, bits of bodywork falling off the car. It really is a big undertaking for the American outfit, but led by two experienced drivers who did actually crash into each other at the start of the race, but they got away with it. So,
yeah. Meanwhile, Kimi Antonelli is now the best part of 10 seconds ahead of George Russell. So when George Russell got past Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, he started to work his way towards Kimi Antonelli, but George Russell now reporting that his rear tyres are gone. He's taken too much out of those tyres, fighting with Hamilton and Leclerc, then pushing to get after Kimi Antonelli. Kimi Antonelli now well out in front and looking very much in control.
Yeah, for the 19-year-old who has a sprint pole to his name and now a Grand Prix pole. 4 podiums bagged in his career to date. Now in his second season in Formula One, in his 26th Grand Prix start, on course for a maiden Grand Prix victory. 9.5 seconds up the road. Midfield shout-outs continue for Behrman in 5th, who is keeping Gasly at bay by about 2.5 seconds. But Gasly could be a threat in the closing stages here for Behrman's 5th place.
Yeah, that's the closest battle that we've got on track currently. It's all died down a little bit since the Charles Leclerc Lewis Hamilton fighting that we saw in the middle of the race. But yeah, Behrman could be under threat with a couple of laps to go. We'll keep an eye on that.
I think the same could be for Carlos Sainz as well. Franco Colapinto has closed up to about 2.8 seconds, so could see a couple of swaps in the final laps for those midfield runners. Franco Colapinto at the moment on course to score his first points in Formula One since the 2024 US Grand Prix. Then a Williams driver, this the Argentine's first full season in Formula One, never raced in Shanghai before, and has been put in the shade rather by Pierre Gasly since the start of this season a week ago. And we know that Flavio Briatore is a hard taskmaster at Alpine. If you've seen the Netflix Drive to Survive's latest series, you'll know what I mean. The Italian man who runs the show over at Alpine was actually fairly congratulatory of Franco Colapinto's qualifying yesterday, only 0.005 of a second away from getting both cars into Q3.
Yeah, and he's one of the drivers that has moved forwards the most in this race. I think the most is Carlos Sainz, 8 overtakes, albeit quite a few cars running into issues. Liam Lawson, 7, and I think Franco Colapinto's moved up 5 places as well.
Just outside Hulkenberg in 11th in the Audi, who I think will be pleased to get to the end of the race, having not been able to start the Australian Grand Prix and retired from yesterday's sprint race. Arvid Lindblad in his second race as a Formula One driver finds himself down in 12th ahead of those 2 Cadillacs. Bottas the better of them in this Grand Prix.
Yeah, Lindblad's had a bit of a learning weekend, hasn't he? Kind of Melbourne went so brilliantly, and you're going to have that when you're young and fresh into Formula One.
Yeah, you certainly are. Arvid Lindblad massively impressed, became the first Red Bull Junior to top 8 on debut since 2009. He's the youngest ever British driver, 3rd youngest to score points in Formula One, with a fantastic drive last time out in Australia, as we get a look at Charles Leclerc a few moments ago in his Ferrari, running in 4th, locking up both front tyres coming into turn 14.
Yeah, I think those front tyres are now a little bit grumpy. He's now the best part of 4 seconds off the back of Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton's got 3 laps remaining to get that elusive podium, proper podium for Ferrari.
It'll be incredible for Lewis Hamilton. What a relief that might well be for the man whose last podium was at the 2024 Las Vegas Grand Prix.
But it's fantastic for him to be getting a podium, but George Russell 15 laps ago was behind him, and now he's 18 seconds off the back of George Russell and a further 10 seconds off the back of Kimi Antonelli. He won't be happy until he's fighting Mercedes all the way through this race. So although it's great that Ferrari are up there, they're still a long way off where they need to be in order to fight Mercedes, and I think that's been fairly evident this second phase of the race.
Yeah, completely agree. It'd be interesting to hear what he says after the race. We'll hear from all of them straight after the top 3, and then we will be digesting all of what we've seen today in our Checkered Flag podcast, which you can listen to on BBC Sounds. Just search F1, or if you fancy watching us and seeing our beautiful faces as we have the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli running deep. Is that turn 14? It is, running deep, getting back onto the track, and just when it was all looking rather rosy, is that a bit of a mistake from the Italian out in front?
I think there would have been a lock-up going down into turn 14. We're now going to be on, but no, we're just going to see an outboard view of what happened. Can imagine this is a lock-up. Oh, yes, big front lock-up on the front right. Okay, that'll hurt him a little bit. He's lost a couple of seconds to his teammate, but he's still got plenty enough of a lead. Still 7.3 seconds out in front. Calm it down, Kimi. Just bring the car home.
Might be feeling a few more vibrations from that front right tyre. Let's hear from him.
Okay, give me 3 laps remaining, so let's just get this thing home.
You should be on the radio, Stuart.
I've got direct comms with Bono. He was my first engineer in Formula One testing, so, you know, got a good rapport there.
And what a man, you know, to be in the ear of Kimi Antonelli, fast track to Formula One, and had a rough start to his career and is still finding his way, I think it's fair to say. But pole and on the way to a first Grand Prix victory, to have a man like Pete Bonington guiding you through it, the man who was Lewis Hamilton's engineer for his entire stint at Mercedes, must be pretty encouraging.
Bono's so good at being not only a very, very good engineer, but being the driver's good friend and ally as well. He's able to understand when a driver needs an arm round him or when a driver needs a kick up the backside.
Navigates turn 14 once again. Kimi Antonelli, no lock-up on this occasion. 7.9 seconds the gap between himself and Russell. Just a couple of laps remaining. Hamilton third, Leclerc fourth. Then comes Behrman in fifth. Gasly 2.2 seconds in sixth. Running out of time here to make that move. Lawson 7th, Hadjar 8th, Sainz is in 9th, and under pressure now with Colapinto just 0.2 of a second behind. Colapinto can sniff a couple of points here, having been biffed round at turn 2 just a few laps ago by Esteban Ocon after his pit stop. Manages to recover, could be on here for an extra point than the one he's currently on course for.
But you look at those medium compound tyres on Colapinto, again that front left just looking so angry. It's been really clear and evident that the hard compound tyre here in China has been the one to run on.
Certainly has been. The safety car really helping out those who started on the medium tyres, and not so those that started on the hard tyres, like Colapinto, like Esteban Ocon, who didn't pit under safety car, found themselves running right at the top of the sharp end. And Ocon now falling down to 14th with that 10-second time penalty as well for the collision with Colapinto. And the Argentine and the Alpine could make a move down the back straights. He's running out of time to do it. Closes in under braking down towards turn 11 and 12. A tight left-hander followed by an uphill right-hander as it sweeps you back round down the 1.2 kilometre back straight. They've not long been overtaken by Kimi Antonelli, who is out in front and on course for a maiden victory for the Italian driver, who will have one more lap on the board to go.
What a feeling this must be for the young Italian, still in his teenage years and leading a Formula One race on the final lap here in China, something he would have dreamt about since he was a young boy in karting, working his way up through the ranks, desperately wanting to be a Formula One driver. And here he is on lap 56 of the Grand Prix, leading. His father, Marco Antonelli, watching on. What's his heart rate like at the moment, Harry?
We saw Kimi Antonelli for the first time in a Formula One car a couple of years ago, making his debut in a practice session in Monza in Italy in front of his adoring fans. And he looked quick, but he had a huge crash and put it into the wall. And since then, he's been on the back foot. We've seen glimmers. Miami last year, sprint pole with a fantastic one lap in that qualifying session. He's made it to the podium 3 times last year, on the front row a week ago, but put in the shade by his teammate George Russell. But when Russell had problems in qualifying yesterday, Kimi Antonelli was able to steal the pole and is making his way now down that long back straight. Not since 2006 have we seen an Italian take to the top step of a Formula One podium as the rears light up for Kimi Antonelli as he slides his way out of 14. One final corner to go for the Italian, who weaves left, who weaves right. The checkered flag is waiting, and it's a first Grand Prix victory for Kimi Antonelli in Formula One. The 19-year-old Italian wins the Chinese Grand Prix, and it's a Mercedes 1-2 once again, with George Russell in second, and for Lewis Hamilton, for the first time since 2024, takes to the podium in Formula One and scores his first for Ferrari. Hamilton third, ahead of Charles Leclerc.
A great race there by Lewis Hamilton, and what a result for Kimi Antonelli and all of Mercedes. They've done a superb job hats off to Kimi Antonelli. What a race.
Incredible from the Italian. Giancarlo Fisichella, Malaysia 2006, almost 20 years ago. Now Kimi Antonelli, Mercedes.
Yes, Kimi, come on my son.
Yes! Yes, man! We did it, man!
Well done there, mate. First race win. It is one you're going to remember forever, Val.
You can hear the emotion in Kimi Antonelli's voice. Just 19 years of age, the boy from Bologna. He's got the car to challenge for a championship, and he's got the team around him to do it as well.
Going into this season, he would have known that he'd had the car underneath him to produce results like today. It's one thing knowing that you've got the car, it's another thing delivering. Today, he has delivered. He's brought home his first win in Formula One. I reckon that could be shackles off, weight off the shoulders, and we could see him fight for the World Championship this year.
Exactly, actually. It might be the confidence boost he needed, because he crashed, didn't he, last week in Australia in qualifying. It was a race against time to get that car out. And Russell, meanwhile, second.
Out there today.
Yeah, well done, team. Well done, Kimi.
Look, I think we're still going to see mistakes from Kimi. I don't think he's completely polished yet. As Hamilton radio?
Well done, Lewis. Sorry the race, clear as mud, as we wanted. Thank you.
Fantastic job. Fantastic job, guys. Really well done. Really grateful for the hard work. We've got to keep up. Keep pushing. Back in Maranello, we've got work to do, but I believe in you. Let's keep pushing. Forza Ferrari.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice words there from Lewis Hamilton. Back to Kimi Antonelli. He's still got some mistakes in him, I feel. I think George Russell right now is the more polished driver.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. You made me achieve one of my dreams. Thank you.
But I mean, looking ahead, if he can improve and have less mistakes through the year, he's proven today that he can be as quick, if not quicker, than George Russell.
A dream come true for Kimi Antonelli, a race winner in Formula One. It's George Russell in second, and it's a man who knows what it's like to be 1 and 2 for Mercedes in third. Lewis Hamilton gets his first podium for Ferrari in what will be his 26th Grand Prix for the team. The longest ever wait for a driver in Ferrari colours. Leclerc fourth, continues his run of never being on the podium in China. Oliver Behrman, top 5. Good job from the Brit. As you can hear the cheers from the main grandstand, Kimi Antonelli stands tall on top of his Mercedes car, a fist into the air, runs straight towards his Mercedes team, hugs his engineers, and the smiles are as wide for all to see. Heads his way into Parc Fermé. That's the sound of Antonelli's side of the garage. He jumps into the arms of his mechanics and engineers. Not one of them with a wider smile, though, than his father, who hugs him, gives him a kiss. His number one mechanic there as well for Kimi Antonelli. Even gives a high five to the social media guy. Incredible. Toto Wolff's protege has delivered a Formula One victory and can begin and mount a championship charge in only his second season. But as you say, Sam, he's got a formidable opponent, a formidable teammate in George Russell, who really is the complete package right now.
Yeah, he is. George Russell is in, his 8th season of Formula One, has been through the highs and the lows, is just a complete driver now, doesn't make too many mistakes, always there on the pace, is a team leader there at Mercedes, and was even when Lewis Hamilton was his teammate, convincingly at times beating a 7-time world champion. So look, Kimi Antonelli's got his work cut out, but I tell you what, it works the other way as well. George Russell's got his work cut out trying to keep up with and beat Kimi Antonelli.
Certainly has. Lewis Hamilton heads over to his Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur there with his mother as well, gives his mum a hug, does Lewis Hamilton, and his team. His first podium with his new engineer, who we do believe is only a temporary appointment in Carlos Santi, expecting a permanent appointment for Lewis Hamilton's race engineer at some stage.
But it worked quite nicely today between the two of them. There was
one would argue.
You know, last year you heard some questionable radio remarks on both sides of the fence, from either Hamilton to his engineer or the engineer back to Hamilton. It sounded strange and strained at times. Today sounded a lot calmer. It does help when you're fast.
Certainly does. As the main grandstand still cheering, a lot of Lewis Hamilton fans in the stands waving the 44 flag. Outside the top four then, Oliver Bearman, 10 points bagged for the Brit. Gets out of the car, gives a handshake to Liam Lawson, who also picked up points. Points in the sprint, points in the Grand Prix for Lawson, who, it was this time last year, he qualified last for Red Bull and didn't finish the race, got demoted, looked like on the verge of falling out of Formula One, delivers 7th place ahead of Isaac Hadjar, the sole remaining Red Bull.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the mid-pack battle as well today. Ollie Bearman coming out the victor of the best of the rest today, and as you said, bagging 10 points for his Haas team. I mean, Ollie Bearman, such a good, competent driver now in Formula One, but it begs the question, where does he go from here? Because you look at Mercedes, you look at Ferrari, and now we're going to go to David Coulthard with the post-race interviews.
Kimi Antonelli, congratulations on your first Grand Prix victory.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm speechless. I'm about to cry, to be honest, but yeah, I mean, thank you so much to my team, because yeah, they helped me to achieve this dream.
You're the first Italian to win for 20 years, so a hugely significant moment for your country as well.
Yeah, I'm super happy. I said yesterday that you know, I really wanted to bring Italy back on top, and we did today. Even though I gave myself a little bit of a heart attack towards the end with a flat spot, but yeah, it was good race. Was good race.
And what was incredible was how mature you had to fight hard with George into the first corner, giving up position to the Ferraris, but that decision there won you this big lead towards the end and ultimately the Grand Prix.
Yeah, I mean, was not an easy start, and yeah, probably I covered a bit too much on the inside and gave too much room to the Ferrari, but yeah, at the end the pace was good, and we managed to bring it home.
I'm going to come back to you, so stay there. George, well, it was a busy one for you. You had the two dueling Ferraris to deal with. It looked to me like you had to take a bit more out of your tyres when you were in that battle. But first of all, your thoughts on Kimi's first victory. You remember getting yours and then get into your Grand Prix.
Yeah, firstly, huge congratulations to Kimi, because it's always very special to win your first race, and obviously he's been driving really amazing this year and this weekend especially. So yeah, pleased to be standing on the podium with him and also with this guy as well. So it was a tough battle. Obviously we both had really bad starts again, and the Ferraris shot past, but at the end of the day, getting the 1-2 again is all we could ask for.
Okay, George, thank you. And well, Lewis, I never thought I'd be saying welcome back to the podium. Last year was a bit uncomfortable at times, other than the sprint victory, but the first two races of this season have shown the fight is there. It was wheel-to-wheel stuff with your teammate, and he came on the radio and said he was enjoying the battle. How was it for you?
Well, firstly, I have to say a huge congratulations to Kimi. I'm so happy for you, buddy, and I'm so honoured to be able to share this moment with him. You know, he took my seat, obviously, at this great team, so big congratulations to Mercedes. They're really pulling ahead at the moment. We've got a lot of work to do to try and keep up, but I had so much fun. We had a great start. Wasn't able to keep these guys behind, but to stay in the fight. It was one of the most enjoyable races that I've had in a long time, if ever. The fact that the cars are the way they are this year, and that battle with Charles at the end was awesome. Great wheel-to-wheel battle, very fair, and just what we want. We got to keep pushing, and also we got this is the most people I've ever seen here in Shanghai, so 谢谢.
They loved it. They love you. There was moments when you were battling with your teammate where we were standing back in the commentary box because we thought, how can you guys not end up touching? That was real racing.
I think there was one moment we did touch, but it was subtle. Just a kiss, so it's okay. But you know, this is what it's about. It's about tough racing. And I've got to say a huge thank you to everyone at Ferrari, everyone back at Maranello for getting us into this position. I know it's not exactly where we want to be. We want to be up front where these guys are, but we've got a great platform to work off, and we just got to literally full gas. So grazie tutti to everyone back home.
Thank you, Lewis. Enjoy that podium. Kimi, coming back to you. You've had time to reflect on your first victory now, so has it sunk in? What does this mean now for the dreams of a championship campaign with George?
Yeah, I mean, it's we're just at the beginning. We gotta keep pushing. You know, George is an incredible driver. He's very strong on all aspects. So it's gonna take a lot to beat him. But it's such a great opportunity to be working with him as well, because I've been learning a lot from him. And looking forward to the rest of the season. Now I always focus race by race, and then we'll see where we end up at the end of the year.
Kimi, go and spray that champagne and enjoy your first Grand Prix victory.
Thank you.
David Coulthard asking the questions there to your race winner, Kimi Antonelli. Second place, George Russell, and third place, Lewis Hamilton. A very emotional Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can imagine, as a driver, you grow up wanting to be in Formula One. You grow up wanting to win Formula One races and ultimately winning Formula One World Championships. He's ticked off 2 out of those 3. Can he go on and tick off the third? I think so in his career. But could he do it this year, Harry?
I wouldn't be surprised. Who knows? I think we're in store for a really intriguing year of racing. We'll have a week off next week, and then we get back to it for the Japanese Grand Prix, which will be across the 5 Live network for you. We're going to be analysing all of what we've seen today, by the way, in our Checkered Flag podcast. If you want to listen to that, it's on BBC Sounds. Just search F1, or if you'd like to watch us, you can look for it on iPlayer and YouTube. But to run you through the rest of the order then, Charles Leclerc just off the podium in 4th. We've mentioned Behrman. Pierre Gasly in 6th. Great result for Alpine. Gasly continues his strong start to the year.
He does indeed.
Put him in a Mercedes, put him in a smaller team. He needs the experience. Look at the mistakes he makes. Here we go, Kimi. Victory.
Thanks, Toto.
And congratulations to the club of the Mercedes Grand Prix winners. There isn't many, and now you're part of it. What a mega race. Really happy.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, everyone.
Toto Wolff there, encouraging words to his protege, Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah, well, Kimi and Toto have known each other since Kimi was a little boy, effectively. I think they're family friends, in fact. He saw the talent that Kimi had and, kind of fast-tracked him up to the Mercedes Formula One team. And right now, you'd have to say that that's a gamble that is paying off.
And a little dig there from Toto Wolff to, I think, everybody else who was saying about the mistakes Kimi Antonelli's made over the course of his rookie year. Put him in a smaller team, like George Russell, put him in a Williams. But no, he got the promotion to Mercedes, and is it now starting to pay off? As we can hear the sounds of the driver cool-down room, Stefano Domenicali, the CEO of Formula One, heads in to wish them all congratulations. A fellow Italian gives a hug to the latest Italian Grand Prix winner, the first in 20 years.
Yep, Giancarlo Fisichella, as you rightly said. You were quizzing me about it yesterday, about the last Italian pole sitter. That was also Giancarlo Fisichella. So the 2 records that Fisi had have now...
He's had a tough weekend.
Have now gone. Sorry, Fisi.
Poor old Giancarlo. I'm sure he won't mind too much, though. Gasly 6th, Liam Lawson 7th, Isaac Hadjar, good recovery drive from him to get to 8th. Carlos Sainz, 2 points on the board. That's actually pretty big for Carlos Sainz.
It's huge for him and for Williams as a team. That'll give them a little bit of momentum going into the next races. They've had a real struggle over these first 2 races of the season. The car looks, to be honest, it looks nowhere. But with regards to with the help of all of the retirees today, he's got himself up into the points. And he's off and away, up and running for this year's World Championship.
Just heard the oohs and ahs of the top 3 drivers, looking at Ollie Behrman's near miss with a spinning Isaac Hadjar, and getting a glimpse at some of the highlights from a very entertaining Chinese Grand Prix. Yes, it ebbed and flowed. There were some low moments. There were some moments where not a lot happened, but then we had some really intense, high-stakes racing action. And overall, thoroughly enjoyable.
There were parts of that race that were absolutely electric. Okay, it subsided towards the end when the gaps...
Did you mean to say that?
I think it's quite good.
Very good, Bert. He switched on at this time in the morning.
The middle phase of the race between Charles Leclerc, George Russell and Lewis Hamilton was one of the most enjoyable 8 to 10 laps of motorsport, especially in Formula One, that I've watched in a long, long time.
Behind Sainz, Franco Colapinto got the final point, was close to getting Sainz at the end, but didn't quite have enough 7/10 adrift for Colapinto, who gets a well-needed point, I would suggest, for the Argentine, who is under pressure this year.
But he had a great race.
Yeah.
The strategy wasn't his fault. Without that virtual safety car, he was looking really good. He was up in P7 behind his teammate Gasly, who was 6th at the time and running quite nicely. He then went long on that hard compound tyre and brought it home in the points, which was great, especially considering he had contact and a little bit of damage from Esteban Ocon, who caused a little bit of damage to his car with that contact at turn number 2.
Those are your point scorers. You'll never guess who finished 11th, Sam.
Oh, could it be? Could it be my man, Nico Hülkenberg?
Poor old Nico Hülkenberg. Another P11, but he finished the race in his Audi, which I think he'll be pleased with. Lindblad, Bottas, Ocon and Perez, the 15 drivers that finished. Good for Cadillac, the newest team on the block to get both cars to the finish. No Verstappen, he retired. No Aston Martins, no McLarens. Bortoleto and Albon didn't even start the race. As the podium ceremony gets underway, Lewis Hamilton steps out onto the 3rd rung of the rostrum, followed by George Russell, and now beaming, a smiling Kimi Antonelli. He almost looks like he doesn't know what to do with himself. Heads out to the top step of the podium, followed by his race engineer. Who else could it be other than Pete Bonington up on the podium for Antonelli's first ever Formula One Grand Prix victory? Is the Italian national anthem. The German national anthem for the winning team Mercedes, and the Italian national anthem for the winning driver Kimi Antonelli rain out across Shanghai as the trophy celebrations begin. Sam, can you look past Kimi Antonelli for driver of the day today?
Absolutely not. I mean, there's a couple of contenders. You'd say Lewis Hamilton and for his bravery in his battle with Charles Leclerc, but to win your first Grand Prix and win it in style, Kimi Antonelli is definitely my driver of the race.
Certainly is. As I say, we'll be analysing all of this in our Checkered Flag podcast. Antonelli takes the spoils ahead of George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. What that does for the Drivers' Championship, well, Russell has a 4-point advantage at the top, 51 points to his name, ahead of Kimi Antonelli. Leclerc third, Hamilton fourth, and Behrman top 5 in the Drivers' Championship with 33 points to his name. Incredible. 17 points to his name, sorry. Hamilton's got 33. 17 points. So, incredible work then for Behrman and midfield runners scoring some big points today in China. We will be back in a week or so's time in Japan. We'll have a week off and then we'll go racing again. And then, of course, we have this 5-week gap after Japan with the cancellation of the Bahrain and the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So, our next appearance after Japan will be Miami. But as the champagne celebrations get underway here in Shanghai, I think it's going to be a very late night for Kimi Antonelli, who celebrates his first ever victory in Formula One, ahead of George Russell, who holds on to the championship lead after the first 2 rounds of the season, and Lewis Hamilton, with a great scrap with his teammate, gets his first podium for Ferrari. That just about does it for us here on 5 Live F1. Coming up next is Sunday Breakfast with the whole team, and big up sport for the rest of the weekend. But first, the latest news on 5 Live.